Chapter 1063. West Earth was about to descend. When this news spread to the outside world, immediately, whether it was the Tianqing sect, the various powerful organizations, or the various large countries in the world, they were all shocked. Previously, there were rumors that powerful people from Star World would descend. However, no one witnessed it, and the news only spread in a small area. Even if they heard about it, they didn't take it to heart. Just like the legends of the Loch Ness Monster and flying saucers, they treated them as non-existent. However, it was different this time. After Jiang Tian entered the Heavenly Kingdom through the Vatican, Yi Tianren had already communicated the information he obtained from Jiang Tian with various powerful organizations and national defense departments. West Earth was rumored to be a dimensional world from ancient Tianzhu to outer space. Its strength might be comparable to or even surpass the stellar sky domain. However, no one knew who would come and how many would come. However, everyone knew that this was the first large-scale contact between humans and the dimensional world. A world-shaking war might even break out. This war might affect the direction of the entire world. Why isn't Jiang Tian back yet? In Tianqing school, Zhang Wanqing's expression was solemn and full of worry. Nothing will happen. Tian is blessed by the heavens. He will be fine. Jiang Zhixing comforted her. Ling that little girl, also went with him. What a fool. Zhang Wanqing's heart ached and she was worried. Now that Qing'er was pregnant and Jiang Tian's attitude was firm, she gave up on the thought in her heart. However, Ling was filial and not as cold as Qing'er. Zhang Wanqing treated her like her own daughter. Yi Ziwei, Jiang Bangxia, and the others were also distracted. They were very worried about Jiang Tian. As for Qing'er, everyone deliberately hid it from her. She didn't know that she was in a coma all day and was tired. It was precisely because she couldn't fight now that they didn't need to tell her. It would only make her worry. They only said that Jiang Tian was in seclusion in Europe for a while. Sigh, why isn't Immortal Master Jiang back yet? Countless Hua Xia martial artists were nervous. His heart clenched. Kang Te Chu, I'm afraid he has already fallen in the kingdom of heaven, right? For a mere mortal to provoke a true god, he's truly seeking death. Now that West Earth is about to descend upon the mortal world again, I'd like to see how Tianqing school can resist. We'll definitely be wiped out. Leave no one alive. However, countless enemies of Jiang Tian, including the Brahmin and Holy See fanatics, as well as the diehards of the European Union, Japan, and the United States who had been suppressed by Jiang Tian, were gloating. At this moment, the underground forums of the dark net world were once again in an uproar. Countless people were paying close attention to this battle. Many large countries and experts had already begun to research the dimensional worlds. They knew that they were once immigrants from ancient Earth, but after a long period of time, they had formed a cultivation civilization and considered themselves to be high-level life forms. They probably didn't even consider humans as humans. For a time, India's Hill of Death became the focus of the world. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, several days passed, and Jiang Tian and Huang Linger still hadn't returned. The vibration of the lightning portal became more and more intense. The lightning that was supposed to be a flash of lightning lasted for a long time and became more and more solid. For a time, the entire world was shrouded in this huge shadow. The local soccer world was surging. Countless people were looking forward to Jiang Tian's return. In the Kingdom of Heaven's secret realm, the palace on the third sacred mountain, Jiang Tian had already repaired his physical body and recovered his cultivation. He had also begun to condense a fire elemental constitution. The great herbs and spirit stones here are really extraordinary. They contain fire elemental energy and endless light. They are of great help to my physical body repair. The light in Jiang Tian's eyes flickered, and a trace of joy appeared at the corner of his mouth. These days, he had crazily devoured many great herbs and used them to set up a super-large spirit-gathering formation. He condensed endless light to reconstruct the gung metal divine body and quickly repaired it. Dazzling golden light appeared on the surface of Jiang Tian's body. At this time, his constitution had an additional trace of light elemental energy. It was in a magnificent translucent state like gold. One could even see the many bones and organs in his body that were originally broken. At this moment, they were gradually growing. In fact, it only took a few days for Jiang Tian to completely recover. His gung metal divine body had also been strengthened a little, and even showed signs of reaching perfection. The gung metal divine body was his first divine body. It was also the foundation of the other two divine bodies. With a stable foundation, the other two divine bodies would also quickly enter the realm of great success. Even if Jiang Tian hadn't broken through in his cultivation, the level of the three divine bodies had been improved and strengthened. His combat power was also 10 times stronger than before. I don't know how Qinger and Gluttonous Baby are doing. I have to transform them into fire elemental constitutions as soon as possible. I don't know which one to use. At this time, he had fully recovered. Jiang Tian's eyes revealed a trace of tenderness and longing, and gradually became firm. The sun jade eye was too special. It was made of a strange multicolored crystal that contained light. This crystal was called the heavenly fire jade. It was very rare even in the universe. Jiang Tian couldn't guarantee how long it would take for him to get a second one. It might take 10 years, 100 years, or even never get a second one. Jiang Tian had to condense a fire elemental divine body in one go. There couldn't be the slightest mistake. Therefore, in addition to using the sun jade eye, he also needed the light of the other stars on the sky dome star map. The sky dome star map was a natural array formation that gathered the light from the sky and attracted the fire from the stars. It had existed for countless years. It might have even existed before Ho-E. The brilliance and fire energy it contained were simply incomparably vast. With the addition of the sky dome star map, the probability of Jiang Tian successfully condensing a fire elemental divine body greatly increased. Now that I have all the resources, I still need to think carefully about what kind of divine body to condense. The first thing Jiang Tian thought of was the Great Sun immortal body, one of the 5 elements immortal bodies. This was also one of the strongest 12 immortal bodies in the universe. In history, in the central galaxy of the universe, there were a few experts who used this body to become immortal emperors. They made a name for themselves and dominated the cultivation world. It's still too wasteful to use the sun crystal eye to condense the Great Sun immortal body. But in the end, Jiang Tian still shook his head. Jiang Tian's gung metal divine body might be called a divine body, but it was still an immortal body of the 5 elements. It only had a certain probability of surpassing the immortal emperor and ascending to the immortal realm. It wasn't that Jiang Tian didn't want to directly condense a metal elemental divine body. It was just that at that time, the cultivation resources on Earth were too scarce. Jiang Tian was already very lucky to have found the metal and wood spirit cores in the star continent. He didn't dare to ask for too much. He immediately used them as resources to condense the gung metal divine body. The 2 divine bodies that Jiang Tian condensed in the stellar sky domain, the Xianshui green dragon and the whirling green wood, were the real supreme divine bodies. They were far superior to ordinary immortal bodies, saint bodies, and so on. Only when all the divine bodies were present could a divine-grade golden core be nurtured. And a divine-grade golden core could lay a solid foundation for Jiang Tian's future cultivation. His combat power was unparalleled, and he could easily kill experts of the same cultivation level at any level. In the end, it could even support Jiang Tian to surpass the immortal realm and successfully ascend to the immortal realm. He could control time and establish the supreme realm of Hongmeng. In fact, when Jiang Tian condensed the whirling green wood divine body and planned to convert the wood elemental divine body to the fire elemental divine body, he had thought about it carefully. At that time, his best choice was this kind of divine body. But he didn't expect to come to the heavenly state with a dome, a star map, and an artificial sun. Jiang Tian now had the sun jade eye and the support of the star map. It would be a waste for him to cultivate such a cultivation art. Moreover, The so-called Great Sun divine body could only simulate the true fire of the sun and the intent of the sun in the sky. It was powerful enough, but not flexible enough. Besides, it was very similar to the sky-swallowing fiend art and the Great Sun furnace that Jiang Tian cultivated. It was unnecessary. It must be a real divine body. The shining golden crow divine body. An ancient deity emperor used to cultivate this cultivation art. But I studied it carefully in my previous life. It must be at the soul formation level and have a solid foundation to travel across the sky and collect the true fire of the sun. It's too demanding. Jiang Tian thought for a while and shook his head again. This divine body was very powerful. But it had high requirements for Jiang Tian's level, which conflicted with his plan to condense a divine-grade golden core and the chaotic divine body. He had to use a fire elemental divine body to lay a foundation and continue to transform other divine bodies at the foundation establishment level. Then, he would form the chaotic divine body and condense a divine-grade golden core. He couldn't wait. In the end, a glint of sharpness flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes and he heaved a sigh. Looks like I can only cultivate the bright vermilion bird divine body, which is slightly weaker than the shining golden crow divine body but doesn't have high requirements for true essence. The vermilion bird. After the rise of Taoism on Earth, it was one of the 7 constellations and one of the 4 symbols. It was one of the 7 constellations in the south of the 28 constellations. It belonged to the fire element and was red in color. It was also known as the vermilion bird. There were also records like, the vermilion bird of the south, the leader of all birds. Its Dantian meridian 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 meridian. In fact, the vermilion bird was not only a mythical beast in myths and legends, nor was it a figment of worship. It was even a top-notch mythical beast in the universe. It was as famous as the true dragon, the golden crow and the heavenly phoenix. Legend had it that the top vermilion bird was comparable to a Tao reunion overlord. Its energy could crush a golden core and kill a foundation establishment overlord. Legend had it that the famous bright vermilion bird divine body was created by a beast with the blood of the vermilion bird when it turned into a human form. This divine body was also a kind of cultivation art. When cultivated to the extreme, it could spew out fire and light to create the vermilion bird dharma form. It was one of the most powerful divine bodies. It's been 5 years since I was reborn. I can finally be extravagant. This sun jade eye is probably tens of thousands of years old. I'll use it to refine this divine body. Jiang Tian touched the sun jade eye and exclaimed. His eyes were glittering with determination. Chapter 1064. There were too few cultivation resources on Earth. Even someone as talented as Heavenly Yi could only reach the 2nd level of the foundation establishment level and could not advance any further. He was only able to see the truth of the 3rd level of the foundation establishment level when he used the unity of heaven and man technique. If Jiang Tian hadn't discovered the existence of the dimensional world, he wouldn't have been able to reach the golden core level in 10 or 20 years, let alone a divine-grade golden core. Form. Qing'er's pale face appeared in Jiang Tian's mind. Anxiety and worry flashed in his eyes. With a low shout, his fingers rapidly formed a seal, activating a secret technique. Creation of everything, essence of heaven and earth. Crack, crack. The basketball-sized sun jade eye quickly shrank and became the size of a pigeon egg. Swallow. Jiang Tian uttered a groan as he opened his mouth and swallowed the sun crystal eye. If it were before, Jiang Tian would have melted it outside his body with the great sun furnace and slowly absorbed it into his dantian with the chaotic art. But this time, Jiang Tian swallowed it directly. There was only one reason. Because Jiang Tian's body was so strong that he could bear it. Besides, the eruption of the sun true fire was also a process of tempering his body, which could stabilize the foundation of his 3 divine bodies. Boom! A surge of energy burst out in Jiang Tian's body, making his energy rise endlessly. This sun crystal eye contains many arrays and divine runes to absorb and release fire energy and light, but it doesn't belong to me. I need to destroy the arrays and divine runes so that the fire energy can be released and completely absorb it. Then, I'll form a small true fire sun and build a divine body that belongs to me. Jiang Tian thought as he activated his secret art. Suddenly, in his dantian, the mystic water flowed and the divine runes on the sun jade eye were removed bit by bit. As the divine runes were removed, the fire energy of the light burst out even more crazily, as if it were going to completely melt his dantian. At this moment, it could be seen. From Jiang Tian's dantian, rays of dazzling light shot out of his body like sharp swords. Under the dazzling light, Jiang Tian's internal organs, bones, meridians, and blood vessels were all clearly visible. In his dantian, the sun jade eye was burning crazily. It was the purest true fire of the sun. One wisp of it was enough to burn a foundation establishment expert into ashes. Endless light and fire energy flooded Jiang Tian's limbs, bones, and internal organs. An unbearable pain came. Even though Jiang Tian had 3 god bodies and his soul consciousness was as solid as a rock, he couldn't bear it anymore. He grunted in pain. However, Jiang Tian did not resist at all. He only clenched his teeth and persevered. He let the flames and light cleanse the 3 divine bodies. This process lasted for an entire day and night. Finally, at a crucial point, Jiang Tian opened his eyes and snorted, "Refine." Rumble. The 9 transformations mystic art was activated. Jiang Tian began to crazily devour the pure energy emitted by the sun jade eye. The true essence in his body kept increasing. At this time, Jiang Tian's true essence gradually had the property of fire. It carried a dazzling light and contained a lot of energy. It was unknown how many years this sun jade eye had existed on the star atlas in the Dome 4. It had absorbed endless light and was contained within it. Jiang Tian guessed. Maybe the sky race wanted to travel across the solar system and enter the dark and lonely universe, so they used this person to create a sun that emitted light and maintained a stable ecosystem. Therefore, the energy of the fire class contained in the sun crystal camera was almost inexhaustible, and it was even more effective than the cosmic fire. 3 days later, Jiang Tian swallowed all the true fire energy in the sun jade eye. The fire energy in his body had reached an unbelievable level. But he didn't stop there. He started to absorb the light and true fire energy of the artificial stars on the star atlas. An extremely vast amount of fire energy was poured into the palace where Jiang Tian was. This time, half of Heavenly Kingdom felt the earth-shattering change. Countless people were dumbfounded. They looked up and their eyes twitched violently. The palace where Jiang Tian was in seclusion had a mysterious connection with the star atlas in the sky. Then, endless light and true fire energy fell from the sky and turned into a pillar of light. A torrent of flames surged toward the palace and enveloped Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was crazily absorbing the endless energy of light and true fire like a whale swallowing a cow. He was pulling the star map in the sky so hard that a giant funnel that was dozens of square kilometers in diameter appeared, as if it was about to collapse. This is too scary. Is the star atlas in the sky collapsing? Everyone in the Heavenly Kingdom saw this scene. Whether it was the peerless experts in the Sacred Mountain Province or the peddlers in the mortal cities, they were all shaken to the core. Oh God! Is perfected immortal Jiang about to break through? On the 3rd sacred mountain, Lu Huaxi looked at Qin Fan with admiration. At this moment, the curse on his body had already been removed by Jiang Tian. However, because he had killed too many people before, his demonic aura still remained. This is simply the power to destroy the heavens and earth. I wonder what level perfected immortal Jiang has reached. Everyone was shocked and envious. At this moment, they all felt a powerful aura, which was not inferior to that of the revived divine ancestor. It was as if it could destroy the world. A few days later, the true essence in Jiang Tian's body had reached an unimaginable level. It was at least 10 times or even 100 times more than before. Jiang Tian had a very obvious feeling of exploding. His entire body also had an inexhaustible amount of strength, as if he could move mountains and fill seas, to the extent that Jiang Tian felt like he was going to explode and die. The true essence in my body is enough to form 4 mid-grade golden cores. Jiang Tian's expression became slightly stern, and he sighed in relief. There is too much sun true essence fire in the heaven fire jade. If someone else swallowed the sun jade eye directly, even a deity body wouldn't be able to withstand it. But I already have 3 divine bodies that can store and withstand the vast true essence. It's unimaginable. Jiang Tian's 3 divine bodies were very magical, and the 9 changes mysterious art was the most powerful cultivation art in the universe. Just like how ink could exist in clear water, and gas and liquid could enter solid containers, the 3 god bodies and the mortal body could be intertwined with each other. They could be separated or combined, and they could move side by side. Although they existed in Jiang Tian's body, Jiang Tian and the mortal body were equal to having 4 bodies, which was why they could withstand the true essence that other cultivators didn't even dare to think about. Even if Jiang Tian didn't transform into the bright vermilion bird divine body, he could kill a late-stage golden core overlord or even a late-stage golden core cultivator or a nascent soul cultivator. If Jiang Tian were to meet a sacred ancestor again, he wouldn't need to use any heaven-shaking bow or sun-shooting arrows, nor would he need to use any cultivation technique or divine ability. He would be able to crush the sacred ancestor into meat paste with just a wave of his hand. This was the result of the skyrocketing true essence and the powerful cultivation. One force could break 10,000 spells and shake everything. The true essence of the fire element is enough. The first step is to condense it and make the bright vermilion bird. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. In the Transcending Divine 9 Transformations mysterious technique, the method to build the divine body began to operate. Crackle. Jiang Tian's dantian trembled. Gradually, balls of fire rose. The vast plains formed by the heptagold metal blocks, the lofty mountains and the surging black water lake were all on fire. This was especially true for the gigantic swaying green wood. Raging flames soared into the sky and crackled as they burned. But every time it burned the main trunk, the heptagold metal and black water true essence would immediately produce green wood, so the divine wood couldn't be burned at all. It wasn't a simple burning. Under the control of Jiang Tian's 9 changes mysterious art, the wood true essence was systematically transformed into the bright vermilion bird true essence. The flames in the sky didn't dissipate. Instead, they gradually condensed into a ball of fire and it became bigger and bigger. It shone for thousands of miles, like a sun in the sky. Open. When almost all the true essence in his body had been transformed into the bright vermilion bird true essence, Jiang Tian let out a roar. Chapter 1065. Boom. The giant sun in Jiang Tian's dantian suddenly collapsed into specks of light. They shone brightly and rushed out of Jiang Tian's body. At this time, Jiang Tian was like a man made of fire. His body was surrounded by dazzling light. A ray of light pierced the sky and a ray of light could crush a mountain. Then, those light spots formed a bright vermilion bird in the sky behind Jiang Tian. Its giant wings covered the sky and emitted strong light and fire energy. An ancient and boundless aura filled the entire hall. Even the palace couldn't withstand it. Many array inscriptions on it cracked and melted. In the end, countless shield-shaped array discs were activated to protect the palace from damage. Only then did they block the violent energy emitted by Jiang Tian. The vermilion bird. It was a powerful divine beast in the universe. The ancient people of Huaxia even used it to refer to the southern constellation, which showed how extraordinary it was. Form. At this time, the divine body of the light vermilion bird had been formed, but Jiang Tian didn't stop. Instead, he activated the divine 9 changes mystic art again. The entire light vermilion bird suddenly turned into a beam of light and shot into Jiang Tian's dantian. The mark of the vermilion bird was imprinted on Jiang Tian's limbs, every bone, every vein, every acupoint, every nerve endings and every cell. At this moment, if one were to look at Jiang Tian with a device that surpassed technology, they would find that Jiang Tian's entire body was made up of bright light spots. These light spots formed a vermilion bird that was about to take flight. It was not just his body. Jiang Tian himself also soared into the air, assuming the posture of an eagle soaring into the sky, hovering in the air. He floated in the air without using any Dharma power, as if he had turned into a vermilion bird that could freely roam the universe. The shadow of the vermilion bird in the air also became bigger and rose higher and higher. In the end, it surpassed this palace and appeared in the sky above the first sacred mountain. It spanned hundreds of miles and suppressed the entire heavenly kingdom. Everyone could see the huge illusory figure of the vermilion bird. It spewed out true flames. Raging flames curled about, sweeping across the sky. The terrifying pressure made everyone in heavenly country tremble. At this time, huge white bones, each dozens of meters long, floated out of the palace and bathed in the vermilion bird's flames. These white bones were the remains of the sage ancestor, and had not been burned by the artificial sun. He still had the bloodline of a nascent soul cultivator. Adhering to the principle of recycling waste, Jiang Tian took 24 ribs and a section of the spine. He divided his attention and refined them into spiritual treasure-level flying swords and sword boxes, bestowing them to his disciples. Is this true immortal Jiang's other divine body? It's actually an ancient divine beast, the vermilion bird. Yi Ye's heart skipped a beat. He felt that the power of this vermilion bird was too great. It was like a great sun in the sky, as if it could burn the heavens. Around it, the stars and constellations on the star map in the sky seemed to have come to life. They avoided it with fear, not daring to get close to it. It's too powerful. I'm afraid that even 10 divine ancestors together wouldn't be able to defeat Kang Te-Chu. Lu Huaxi's eyes were wide open. The depth of Jiang Tian's foundation was beyond his imagination. Right then, the light emitted by the vermilion bird's divine body was already stronger than the artificial sun. Many sacred beings of the light sect felt their divine souls, bodies and energy rapidly growing. This is the light of Kang Te-Chu's divine body. It's very beneficial for our cultivation. Absorb it immediately. The sacred lord of the third sacred mountain was the first to react. He immediately sat cross-legged with his 5 fingers facing the sky as he used the stellar condensation technique to absorb the holy light. The light of a true God. Oh God, absorb it quickly. It's very beneficial for us. Next to him, Yi Xiaoman, Mei Ji and the others looked at the vermilion bird in the sky with admiration and started to cultivate. At this moment, Jiang Tian was like a true god in their eyes. Bathing in his grace would bring them endless benefits. Whoosh! After a day. After Jiang Tian fully sensed the vermilion bird radiant divine physique's concept, he gradually withdrew his body and sat cross-legged on the ground. Boom! The vermilion bird shrank like a tired bird returning to its nest. In the end, it went into Jiang Tian's body like a swallow returning to the forest. Whoosh! Clang! 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 The 24 spiritual-grade flying swords, which had been forged from the ribs of the sacred ancestor, were also inserted into the sword case made from the sacred ancestor's spine. They flew into the hall and landed in front of Jiang Tian. The divine body of the vermilion bird is finally complete. Jiang Tian slowly opened his eyes. Outside of his pitch-black pupils and the purple lightning ring, a halo of light was formed, shooting out a sharp and blazing light. If one were to magnify it 100 times, one would discover that this halo was completely composed of the true sun fire and the astral fire of the universe. There were also layers upon layers of the vermilion bird imprint. One look could incinerate the heavens and refine the sky with fire. Vermilion bird fire eyes. And this divine power was only one of the divine powers of the vermilion bird divine body. The vermilion bird was the most powerful divine beast of the fire element in the universe. The divine body derived from it was also one of the best divine bodies in the fire element. The divine fire of the vermilion bird was endless. Martial fire could kill people and destroy cities. When it reached the initial success level, it could melt gold and iron and burn everything. A wisp of flame could kill a golden core cultivator. When it reached the highest level, it could burn the sky and destroy the stars. Gentle fire could be used to make elixirs and build arrays. In the realm of cultivation, there were 12 types of sky fire, 12 types of earth fire and 12 types of human fire. They were very magical and could be used to make many spirit pills and spirit medicines. Any cultivator who got their hands on them would treat them as treasures. But compared to Jiang Tian's vermilion bird fire, these divine fires were like a joke. They were not worth mentioning. And at this moment, within Jiang Tian's dantian, a blazing sun appeared, shining with boundless radiance. Shockingly, there was a vermilion bird soaring in the depths of it. At this moment, Jiang Tian's originally extremely violent and surging true essence had been compressed and condensed, and it slowly fell back to the 4th level of foundation establishment. In fact, Jiang Tian even wanted to suppress his true essence to the 3rd level of the foundation establishment level. He didn't want to pretend to be weak and humiliate himself. If he wasn't satisfied with a certain divine body in the future, he could crush it and have another chance to rebuild it. But he had no choice. His true essence was too strong and violent. It was comparable to that of several mid-grade golden core overlords and couldn't be compressed at all. He suppressed it to the 4th level of the foundation establishment level, and he had 4 divine bodies to share the true essence. 4th level foundation establishment level and the most powerful divine body of the fire element. This trip to heavenly state is very fruitful. A happy smile appeared on the corner of Jiang Tian's mouth. At this moment, he was very confident. He wasn't afraid of the ruins of deity, not to mention West Earth. But then, a strong sense of longing and worry shrouded his heart. He couldn't wait to return to Earth and see Qing'er, his parents and friends. Qi Liao's bones are very tough. The sword he made is also very good. Jiang Tian looked at the bone sword and threw all the heavenly treasures into the sky-swallowing demon gourd. Then, he took a deep breath and stepped out of the temple in front of everyone's expectant and shocked eyes. We congratulate you, true immortal Jiang. May your cultivation progress, your dermic powers become profound, and you refine another undying body. Seeing Jiang Tian come out, everyone knelt on the ground and worshipped him with shock and respect in their eyes. Although Jiang Tian looked like a mid-stage foundation establishment level cultivator, he was actually able to defeat all the golden core overlords and nascent soul overlords at the same level. It was as if the divine ancestor had come back to life. The current Jiang Tian, even in the kingdom of heaven, could be said to be an immortal powerhouse. How could they not be afraid and worshipped? Jiang Tian nodded. Perfected immortal Jiang, about the divine ancestor's descendants, the 3rd sacred lord hurried to report. His face was full of fear, flattery and pity, like a believer in front of a true god. That's enough. I'm not interested. Jiang Tian didn't have the patience to listen anymore. He waved his hand and said, "Continue the hunt. I don't want any of the divine ancestors' descendants to live in this world. I'll be back in the future." Yes. The sacred lords hurried to kowtow. Everyone's faces changed. Yi Shaoman said reluctantly, "Perfected immortal Jiang, are you going back?" "That's right." Jiang Tian nodded and walked towards a dimension portal on the 3rd sacred mountain. Almost every holy mountain had a portal that led directly to the earth realm, but there was only one from the earth realm to the kingdom of heaven. Perfected immortal Jiang, this place has just been settled. Don't you want to stay for a few more days? Yi begged. Jiang Tian had been in seclusion for the past few days. However, the destruction of the sacred hall was a big deal. Their authority had been suspended. After all, there were more than 1 billion living beings there. There were sacred mountains, cities and so on. They all needed Jiang Tian to make decisions. That's right. Perfected immortal Jiang, stay for a while longer. You can even stay here for a long time. After all, this is an alternate dimension. The spirit chi here is better than on earth. Many saint sovereigns urged him to stay. They were reluctant to part with him. They had been practicing the stellar condensation art that Jiang Tian had taught them over the past few days. Their cultivation levels had improved a few times faster than when they had the artificial sun. This allowed them to realize how deep Jiang Tian's reserves were, and it was simply an inexhaustible treasure trove. Jiang Tian only had to give them a few words of guidance, and it would allow them to improve endlessly, so how could they be willing to let Jiang Tian leave? Earth will always be my homeland and my foundation. I have to go back. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, his gaze distant. Gradually, waves of murderous intent rose into the sky, sending chills down everyone's spines. I'm afraid West Earth can't sit still anymore. It's best if Tang Linglong has already taken care of them. Chapter 1066. It would be best if Tang Linglong had taken care of them. Don't let me see them. Otherwise, I will kill you until you regret coming to Earth. Jiang Tian thought as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Lu Huaxi looked at Jiang Tian sadly. He wanted to say something but stopped. Jiang Tian glanced at Lu Huaxi and smiled. Lu Huaxi, haven't you always wanted to overthrow the Saint Hall and lead the holy tribe of light and be the master of the Saint Hall? Now, it's your turn. What? Lu Huaxi was dumbfounded. He could not believe it, as if he had been struck by lightning. As for the others, they all looked at Lu Huaxi enviously and looked at Jiang Tian with reverence. The master of the Saint Hall. This dimensional world was about the same size as Earth, but its spiritual chi was richer than Earth's. Who knew how many people coveted the position of the ruler of this world, fervently yearned for it? Even the descendants of the sacred ancient would fight over the position of Saint Emperor, or even the position of Lord of a sacred mountain, or the position of city magistrate. It was common for them to kill their own brothers and fathers. However, Jiang Tian did not care at all. It was as if he had given a bun to a beggar. Then, he was so excited that his body trembled. He knelt on the ground and cried with gratitude. True celestial Jiang, you are the eternal master of heavenly kingdom. That will never change. However, little Kuo is willing to represent true immortal Jiang when he is not around. Disciple congratulates the hottest sun in the kingdom of heaven, the highest ruler, the great leader, the great helmsman, and the great commander, true immortal Jiang. May he be forever healthy, may he live forever, may he live forever, may he have a long life, and may his magic power be deep. Jiang Tian nodded and said, You are the master of the Saint Hall, but the giant tribe will become the master of heavenly kingdom. Yi, you will be the emperor of heavenly kingdom, the president of the tenacious senate. Lu Huaxi will be responsible for you. After all, this world originally belonged to the ancient Hua Xia and belonged to the Sky tribe. Now, it belongs to its master. Jiang Tian swept his gaze across the crowd and said coldly, I believe that no one has any objections, right? Of course not. I agree. Seconded. Of course. The Saint Hall will definitely lead the Holy Light clan to protect the Yi Empire. We won't hesitate to sacrifice our lives. True immortal Jiang is wise. Sacred ancestor Qi Liao and the other shameless scum seized power and disregarded morality. Now, it is reasonable to return it to the Sky clan. Coming into contact with Jiang Tian's cold gaze, Lu Huaxi and the other holy masters shuddered in fright, not daring to disobey in the slightest. They immediately complied respectfully. Now, there were only a few tens of thousands of giants left. They could not be compared to the holy tribe of light. If Jiang Tian had said that he wanted the Titans to become the masters of this world, everyone would have laughed their heads off. Then, they would have swarmed up and trampled this reckless brat into the dust. But now, things were different. Jiang Tian had already killed sacred ancestor Qi Liao, trampled a holy king to death, overturned the Saint Hall, and transformed into a fourth divine body. His power was enough to destroy the world. If anyone dared to say no, they would probably be stabbed to death by Jiang Tian's finger. What? Yi was also in disbelief. The sky race will remember true immortal Zhang's righteousness and kindness for generations to come. True immortal Zhang's kindness will be remembered. Then, he was so emotional that tears streamed down his face. His entire body trembled violently as he kowtowed and said loudly. Yi Xiaoman felt as if she was in a dream. She felt dizzy as she kowtowed with the other tribesmen present. She was going to be a princess in the future. The Sky Clan was going to revive the country just like that. She did not even dare to think about it before. It was just an illusory dream. After all, the Sky Clan had already withered beyond words. Even if the Holy Light Clan did not do anything and allowed them to reproduce for 100 years, how could they have the power to challenge the Saint Hall and the Light Clan? Alright, get up. Jiang Tian smiled faintly as if this earth-shattering event was just a casual matter. Originally, Jiang Tian had planned to let Yi Yi and the Giant Clan rule the Heavenly Kingdom and the Saint Hall. But after thinking about it, he gave up in the end. If this conflict was too intense, there might be extremists of the Holy Light Clan who would not accept the rule and start a conflict. So, he used Lu Huaxi to rule the Holy Light Clan, which was equivalent to a layer of security to protect the Giant Clan. Lu Huaxi had given up his soul blood. He would not dare to betray Jiang Tian at all, unless he was tired of living. In the crowd, only the leader of the Elf Clan, Mei Ji, looked at Jiang Tian bitterly. She sighed secretly and felt a strong sense of regret in her heart. Now, although the Heavenly Kingdom was establishing an equal hierarchy, the Elf Clan was on equal footing with the Holy Light Clan in name. But it was definitely not like the Fallen Angel Clan and the Giant Clan, who were already in a dominant position. More importantly, she herself had not gained any benefits from Jiang Tian. If she had been discerning and recognized Jiang Tian's strength and followed him closely, perhaps she and her master would have a different fate. Jiang Tian ordered as he walked, casually replying to their requests. Soon, Jiang Tian arrived in front of a teleportation portal. The third sacred lord wanted to offer a protective jade tablet. But unexpectedly, under everyone's incredulous gazes, Jiang Tian did not use any secret techniques. He directly tore open the teleportation portal with his bare hands. Then, he held Huang Linger's waist and stepped in. He tore open the teleportation portal with his bare hands. The power of the divine body is really strong. Everyone was shocked. Then, they all knelt on the ground and said in unison, "We respectfully send true immortal Jiang off." When they lifted their heads, they realized that Jiang Tian's figure had already disappeared into the distorted space door. While Jiang Tian was traveling through the portal. In India, Earth. During this period of time, the violent energy waves and vibrations from the portal above the Death Hill became stronger and stronger. It was as if a powerful being was about to open the portal and descend on Earth. General Yi, what level do you think the overlords of West Earth can reach? Keynes was a bit nervous and asked. Yi Tianren had retired a long time ago. That was his military rank, but Keynes respected him a lot, so he addressed him as such. According to Master, even if they can use a secret treasure to open the portal, they must be at the Foundation establishment level. They're slightly weaker than Master. But Master isn't here. Yi Tianren's expression turned serious as he explained the strength of a Foundation establishment cultivator. They're not afraid of high-temperature lightning? How fast can they break the sound barrier? They're even faster than the most advanced fighter jets. They can live up to 300 years or even longer. The more they listened, the more frightened they became. Their faces turned pale and cold sweat dripped down. A thought popped up uncontrollably. This was no longer a mortal life form. It was clearly the legendary deities and immortals, an alien life form of a higher level. Everyone was chatting. Suddenly, they heard a loud bang exploding in the portal. It was earth-shattering. Everyone couldn't help but look over in shock. The door shuddered violently as a lightning ball the size of a millstone floated out from it like a cocoon. The lightning ball grew bigger and bigger. In the end, it was more than 10 meters tall. It floated in the air, emitting endless bright light. Those lightning bolts were still in the posture of baring fangs and brandishing claws, but they were completely still. It showed that the other party's ability to control lightning was very high. The portal to West Earth is open. At this moment, everyone was shocked and their faces were extremely solemn. On the field, hundreds of thousands of soldiers loaded their guns and held their weapons tightly. The missiles rotated in unison and aimed at this place. Whoosh! A large golden hand reached out. The cocoon was instantly torn open from the inside, and a man who seemed to be made of gold stepped out. This man was the height of an ordinary person and had an Asian appearance. He was bald and wearing a long robe, but his body was completely wrapped in golden water. It was flickering, like a legendary true god. Stable lightning? Ball lightning? Through the scan, the metal content in this creature's body is more than 80%. Liquid metal? Is it life metal? The scientists present came from many world-class universities such as MIT and Cornell University. There were even a few Nobel Prize winners. They were stunned when they saw the data through the screen. In fact, everyone was shocked. Everything that happened in front of their eyes had exceeded their knowledge system. They felt as if their worldview had collapsed. Chapter 1067. At present, several groups from Harvard University, Cornell University, and MIT were working together to develop such a designable substance, an individual substance that could be automatically assembled into tools or parts. One of the clinical results was a sheet material that could self-fold into a three-dimensional shape according to needs. Another epoch-making technology that was being developed was military equipment that could automatically change positions or become parts and tools according to operational requirements. Their vision was that the created material would operate like a computer. The boundary between material and computer would become more and more blurred, materials combined to become a computer, and computers worked like materials. But many designs were still in the stage of imagination and creativity. But the metallic human in front of them was just like what they had envisioned. The next scene made everyone even more amazed. The golden man took out a gourd-like magic artifact and chanted an obscure incantation. Suddenly, many lightning bolts came to life behind him. With a series of crackling sounds, they drilled into the gourd. And he, with a shake of his body, turned into a body of flesh and blood. The big sleeves of his yellow monk robe fluttered. He was barefoot and wore straw shoes. His body was huge, and his eyes were cold and disdainful, as if the world was nothing in his eyes. However, his skin was slightly dark, and his nose was bigger. He looked a little like an Indian. And after the lightning cocoon disappeared, a beautiful woman in a gorgeous dress and a young man in a long robe also walked out. They gave off a kind of otherworldly aura, as if immortals had descended to the mortal world. In particular, the woman was clearly wearing a traditional Indian dress, a sari. Bright gems, sequins, and many exquisite head ornaments, necklaces, bracelets, rings, and waist ornaments made her look even more luxurious and magnificent. The embroidered tulle was faintly discernible, revealing her graceful figure and her perfectly round and slender legs. She had a slender waist, revealing her flat belly and belly button. She looked mysterious, sexy, and charming. This is not an alien. It's clearly a human from Earth. And it's an ancient Indian. No, it's not a human. It's the true god of ancient India. The general of the Indian Ministry of Defense immediately said with joy, "This is not an enemy. This is the true god's manifestation. I have to go forward and communicate with them." In fact, he had always been hostile to Jiang Tian and Tianqing school. Although the relationship between the Brahmin and the Indian government was relatively distant, they were still a force in India and had many followers. Now that they were wiped out by Jiang Tian, he was very unhappy. If West Earth was willing to support India instead of invading, wouldn't India be able to suppress the entire world? Tang Linglong nodded and didn't stop them. However, she instructed coldly, "Tell the guests from West Earth to return immediately. Otherwise, we reserve the right to use force. Put down your weapons first. Don't be rude to the gods of India." The Indian general snorted and retorted. If West Earth supports India, what does Hua Xia and Sidoni count for? Then we will catch up from behind. This isn't inferior to an extraterrestrial civilization. He took a helicopter and flew closer. Then, surrounded by several generals and guards, he quickly stepped forward and bowed deeply. Respected guests from West Earth, I'm the General of India's Ministry of Defense. I hope that we can have a friendly discussion. The monk didn't even look at him. He also ignored the many planes, cannons, and steel defense lines. His arrogance soared into the sky as he looked down and said coldly, "Where is Kang Te-chu of Tianqing School? Come out and die." He spoke in Sanskrit, but there were various linguists present and immediately translated it. Yi Tianren was well versed in both Chinese and Western languages and also understood. His expression immediately changed slightly. Tang Linglong took a step forward and said loudly through the battlefield broadcast, "Please return to your West Earth immediately. Otherwise, we reserve the right to use weapons." The Indian general immediately became anxious and roared loudly, "This is our ancient Indian god, Tang Linglong. If you dare to attack, India will not allow it." When everyone saw this, they were so angry that they stomped their feet. Keynes shouted angrily, "Where do you think the United Nations Alliance Army is? Have you forgotten our agreement? Are you going to publicly tear up the white paper on Earth's joint defense?" It's just as Master guessed, only Yi Tianren wasn't surprised. He only shook his head gently. Jiang Tian had long guessed this possibility. India might have some kind of illusion that they would become the descendant faction and support West Earth. Moreover, Jiang Tian had also said that even if India surrendered, they wouldn't have a good ending. No dimensional world would treat humans as equal life forms. There might be a period of conciliation, but in the end, they would either be exterminated or enslaved. Earth was too small for the dimensional worlds, and the spiritual energy was too little. Even if they recovered, they wouldn't give humans on Earth much space to live. We, India, have always been looking forward to and supporting the descent of West Earth. Please build a base here in India. Let's defeat Sidoni, America, and the United Kingdom that once colonized us. The Indian general knelt on the ground in front of the guest from West Earth and worshipped him with a fawning expression. He said with a fawning expression, "On behalf of the Indian authorities, I convey to you that we are willing to be your most loyal believers and slaves." The other Indian generals and many guards also knelt on the ground. Their eyes were pious as if they were looking at a true god. The Indian people were very magical. They were superstitious about reincarnation and were polytheistic. They believed in all kinds of gods and didn't pay attention to reality. There were many unimaginable things. There was once an old man in India who believed in Lord Shiva. He abandoned his wife and cultivated diligently for 40 years. In order to pursue the descent of Lord Shiva, he raised his right hand high for 40 years and never put it down. As a result, his right hand became diseased and was like a withered branch. He was in great pain, but it couldn't change his belief. At this moment, seeing this miracle, they immediately wavered and prostrated themselves in worship, willing to be slaves. "Worm! Weak worm, you want to be my slave?" The person dressed as a monk bent down and looked down at everyone. He laughed strangely and said, "Do you know what my slave is like? Do you think you are worthy?" This time, he actually spoke in English, very fluent English. The Indian general was confused and stunned. Deep in his heart, there was even a little anger gathering. He was a general of a country after all. In this country, his words carried a lot of weight. Even in the world, he had a lot of say. However, he was not worthy of being their slave. That was too arrogant. Remember, ants are not qualified to be the slaves of the gods of West Earth. The monk laughed out loud. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand. Lightning erupted and enveloped the Indian general, instantly turning him into ashes. The lightning flashed and disappeared in an instant. It was extremely fast. In everyone's intuition, it was the monk who stretched out his hand and the general of India disappeared silently from where he stood. The other Indian generals and guards were stunned. Open fire. 3 seconds later, seeing him slowly raise his hand again, a guard reacted and screamed as he fired at him. The others were also awakened by the gunshots and opened fire. The monk raised his hand, and the bullets floated in the air motionlessly. They could not hurt him at all. Human weapons are so low level. They have no souls. The monk raised his hand and pinched a bullet. He sized it up with interest and grinned. Boom! He stomped his foot and the lightning around him exploded like a waterfall. In an instant, all the Indians within a kilometer radius were turned into ashes and disappeared from the spot. The monk shouted, "So that you will know when you die. I am the monk of Layin Mountain, Xiang Long." This woman was Ai Lian, an elite disciple of Tingyu Tower. This handsome young man was the guardian elder of the Changshan sect, Luo Ming. Kasayapa Guru was one of his disciples. The guardian elder of the Changshan sect. Kasayapa Guru's master. Everyone looked at the young man in shock. Brahman was the descendant of the Changshan sect on earth. This man was the guardian elder of the Changshan sect and his status was much higher than Kasayapa Guru's. The young man's face was handsome and his skin was fair. However, his eyes were as indifferent as an ancient well without any ripples. It was unknown how many years this old monster had lived. The guardian elder Luo Ming's eyes were cold and murderous. "Kang Te Chu, do you want to die? How dare you destroy my sect on earth and kill my disciple? I will kill 3 million people on earth to wash away the hatred in my heart." Chapter 1068. Kill 3 million people. This person is ruthless. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Even Canes shouted. Luo Ming had openly declared that he would kill 3 million people. They consider themselves to be immortals, high and mighty. They treat us as ants and think that their civilization can crush us. Yi Tianren's eyes were like torches as he said coldly, "Think about it. If we want to get rid of a nest of termites, will we give them a heads up? Will we negotiate? Will we care about the reaction of the ants? Just kill them. There's nothing to talk about. First, he can control metal. Second, he can unleash lightning." However, Tang Linglong analyzed leisurely and then ordered, "Robots, go forward and test his strength. All data receiving departments, get ready." "Yes. Robots, move." A Sky Army officer said. Whoosh! 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 The robots jumped out from behind the bunkers and crossed hundreds of meters in one leap. When they landed, the ground shook. These robots were a few kilometers away from the three of them, but in just a few breaths, a total of a dozen robots and robotic beasts had crossed over to the three of them. The leader of robot number 1 clenched his fists. Sharp claws like Wolverine emerged from the tip of his fists. The leader of robot number 2 held a shield and a spear, like an indomitable divine general. The leader of robot number 3 was bald, with a scar painted on the top of his head. His outer armor was also painted yellow like a monk's robe. He held a titanium alloy rod in his hand. He shook it slightly and let out a strange howl. Their movements were agile as if they had intelligence. Their reaction speed was extremely fast, completely surpassing the products of any international factory today. There was a hint of envy in Kane's eyes. This was not a mechanical exoskeleton, but a real robot made of titanium alloy, extremely cold metal, and biological materials. It was equipped with crystal energy batteries. Whether in terms of endurance or attack power, it was beyond ordinary and had achieved mass production. However, these robots were not developed by the United States, but jointly developed by the Sidonia Academy of Sciences and the Sky Army. Before, whether it was a mechanical exoskeleton or a robot, the energy device was an urgent obstacle that needed to be solved. The original lithium batteries and graphene batteries were too small, too big, too heavy, and had poor endurance. These aspects severely limited the application of mechanical exoskeletons and robots. However, based on the theories of heavy fusion technology such as the extreme flaming crystals and the explosive crystals, Sidoni had already developed such an advanced crystal energy battery. The battery, which was the size of a fingernail, could provide them with energy for 3 days and 3 nights of continuous exercise. At present, Huaxia's military had already purchased these robots in bulk. In terms of military equipment usage, the United States was once again inferior. After all, this thing was simply a killing machine on the battlefield, a harvester of human lives. If a robot was equipped with heavy firepower such as armor-piercing bullets and incendiary bombs, it could rival an armored division and kill tens of thousands of people. Robot number 3, the program I entered is Wulangbagua Stick. This batch of robots was codenamed Guoshu Grandmaster. Behind them, there are still shooting experts and robot beasts. Zhang Qing'an's face was filled with joy. His smile was as bright as a child looking at his favorite toy. These crystal energy robots were all developed by him. Puppets. Puppets. Seeing this, Luo Ming revealed a look of great interest. The development of Earth's obscene techniques is really rapid. If we occupy them, there's no need to kill them. It's good to let them be our slaves. As for Xianglong and Irene, they were also a little surprised. It seemed that they couldn't believe that there would be puppet beasts here. In the cultivation world, puppet beasts were generally created by master refiners. Moreover, they had to be proficient in formations, talismans, and many other kinds of knowledge. Even in the West Earth world, to be able to own a puppet beast, one had to be a sect master level powerhouse. Most of them raised slightly intelligent beasts as pets, mounts, or servants. Kill. As the command was issued. Robot number 3 was the first to rush out. Its speed was comparable to the sound barrier. The long rod made of titanium alloy swept towards the 3 of them. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and sand and stones flew. This attack could flatten a tank. Humph. If you want to kill me, you're still far from it. Luo Ming snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with disdain. He slapped the back of his head and opened his mouth to spit out a small sword that was about an inch long. This sword grew larger in the wind and turned into a 3-foot-long green blade. He held the sword in his hand and with a swoosh, the long sword swept out. Suddenly, robot number 3's titanium alloy long rod broke. It was cut in half by the sword light and fell to the ground. Strength test data. Speed data. Attack temperature data. Suddenly, a lot of data, like a waterfall, flashed on the command center's computer, shocking a group of people. Tang Linglong, on the other hand, was very calm. Because she didn't plan to rely on these robots to deal with the 3 of them. The cultivation of the 3 of them should be at the late stage of the foundation establishment stage. Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren had seen the data of these robots and thought that they were only comparable to the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. It would be very difficult for them to face the strong of the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. However, this was already very difficult. Now, the ruins of immortality and the multidimensional worlds could invade at any time. Who could resist them? As for the crystal energy robots, they had been mass-produced. Now, Tian Jun was equipped with more than 3,000 of them, and Hua Xia was equipped with more than 10,000 of them. They could at least resist the attack of the strong of the foundation establishment stage. At the critical moment, they didn't know how many people they could save. Moreover, more could be cast, and there was still room for improvement in performance. Therefore, Jiang Tian supported this project at all costs. The second wave of attack, continue. Hit that bald monk and that witch for me. Pay attention to the data collection. Tang Linglong gave the second order. Immediately, the crystal energy robots number 1 and number 2 led the other robots and swarmed forward to attack the 3 of them. The 2 sides fought together. It was obvious that the 3 strong people of West Earth had an overwhelming advantage. Bang! Robot number 1's sharp steel saber, which was like Wolverine's claws, quickly slashed down. Ellen's body moved to the side, and the steel saber cut into the stone wall. The stone wall was like tofu, splitting into pieces. Robot number 1 had just turned around, but before it could make a second move, Ellen's jade-white palm had already slapped out at lightning speed, imprinting on robot number 1's chest. The special metal that could withstand artillery fire had a shallow palm print on it, but it wasn't damaged. Chi! Robot number 1's feet brushed against the granite ground as it retreated. His feet left 2 deep marks on the hard ground. Flames splashed everywhere, and he crashed into pieces of broken walls, causing smoke and dust to rise. It was not until he had retreated more than half a kilometer and sunk into a slope that he managed to stop his footsteps. This delicate woman's palm has the strength of 50 tons. It can destroy the most advanced tank. Keynes looked at the data transmitted back and was shocked. Is this still a human? Many scientists and military experts present were dumbfounded and exclaimed. I wonder if robot number 1 can withstand it. Everyone's eyes were filled with concern. Zhang Qinzhen also wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. It could be seen through the screen. Robot number 1 crawled out of the slope and staggered a few steps, but its body paused and froze on the spot. Black smoke billowed out of the gap in front of its chest. With a series of crackling sounds, it exploded with sparks and fell to the ground. The outer shell isn't seriously damaged, but the intense tremors caused the array chip and the electrical conduction system to collapse. It seems that this part needs to be strengthened. Zhang Qinzhen borrowed the computer and remotely analyzed the damage of robot number 1. A trace of worry appeared on his face. Chapter 1069. Yes. They're evenly matched. Yi Tianren nodded solemnly. Jiang Tian was still at the qi refinement level back then. Of course, he had already forged the gung metal divine body and his combat power was comparable to an early-stage Foundation establishment overlord. However, the 3 people in front of him were clearly at the late stage of the Foundation establishment overlords. Boom! The missiles pierced through the sky like a rain of swords and headed straight for them. The monk shouted continuously, "Open! Open! Open! Open!" He parted at least 100 missiles. These missiles either exploded around him or landed on the ground. It was as if a huge firework had suddenly exploded. At that moment, the ruins of Death Hill had become a sea of fire. Smoke billowed in the sky and huge craters more than a few meters deep appeared on the ground. Even a layer of granite had been shaved off. However, the launch of the missiles had obviously stopped their progress. After they advanced 10 kilometers, their speed suddenly slowed down. Otherwise, with their supersonic speed, they would only need a minute or 2 to reach the command center. We've collected a lot of data about the missile attack. Zhang Qinzhen and the other scientists reminded them. At that moment, they were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. The enemy's speed was too fast. If they didn't stop them in time and let them reach their peak speed, they would rush into the command center in a minute. Yes. I understand. Tang Linglong's face was cold. At that moment, an uncontrolled missile exploded around the monk. In an instant, his body was covered in blood and his skin was torn open. However, he had used a secret technique. Immediately, a golden liquid flowed on the surface of his body. A moment later, he completely recovered as if he had never been hit by the explosion. You've successfully angered me. The great monk Xianglong felt the pain and angrily roared. His face instantly became murderous and his eyes were as sharp as a knife, full of malice and resentment. He grabbed the air with both hands and suddenly, a giant palm formed by golden essence qi gathered in the air. The giant palm grabbed at least 100 missiles and then threw them out as if they were soybeans. Boom! 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 It was as if a rain of missiles had fallen on the defense line. They exploded one after another, causing the earth to tremble and flames to shoot into the sky. Mountains were razed to the ground and tanks were overturned. They lay on the ground like dead turtles. Rustle! Rustle! Inside the HQ, the ground shook as if there was an earthquake. Cement particles fell, and canes lay on the ground, shivering. When the tremor subsided, he looked up and saw that Yi Tianren, Tang Linglong, Sasaki Haisha, and the other Tianqing school students were still standing there. He could not help but feel ashamed. He looked at the damage report on the screen and said embarrassedly, "Thank goodness." Luckily, General Yi once reminded us that the enemy might have weapons of mass destruction, so our soldiers dug very deep bunkers and focused on long-range attacks. This time, only a few people died. Otherwise, 10,000 people will definitely die. Tang Linglong glanced at the 3 red dots on the monitor. In the blink of an eye, the enemy had broken through another 2 kilometers. They were less than 10 kilometers away. In half a minute, they could break through to the headquarters. At this time, Tang Linglong pressed on the earpiece and said coldly, "Absolute beginning, Kuelian, fire." Above the Indian Ocean, waves rolled, blue sky, and white clouds. The aircraft carrier Absolute Beginning floated on the ocean like a continent. Many generals and soldiers were on standby. They heard the order. A special model Kuelian suddenly trembled. The cannon barrel let out a shrill cry. Several blue light beams that were several times thicker than the Roman column spewed out and pierced through the sky. The horn of death sounded. The light beams were like pillars that supported the sky, as if they could pierce through the sky. They were extremely sharp and wild. They flashed in the sky and shot toward India. "Humph! You're just ants. This monk can kill 10,000 people with one strike. Ha ha ha." On the battlefield of Death Hill, Xianglong flew toward the headquarters while laughing wildly and triumphantly. With a slap of his giant palm, a few tanks were destroyed. With a stomp of his foot, a fortress collapsed. He did not know that the missiles he fired just now did not kill many people, so he was fighting to his heart's content. At this time, the missiles on the battlefield had stopped firing. Xianglong floated in the air and stood with his hands on his waist. He roared loudly, "Where's Kang Taechu? Why doesn't he dare to come out? He must be afraid of me, right? Ha ha ha, tell him not to be afraid. Come out and I'll kill him. I heard that he's quite handsome. What's the use of letting him be my boy toy?" Ellen rolled her eyes at him and covered her mouth with a smile. She said seductively, "Oh, you're so despicable. The human race on Earth is filthy, just like those beasts. How can you do that?" Although she was charming and sexy, and her voice was soft and pleasant, with a hint of laziness and magnetism, her mouth was very vicious. Her eyes were cold. "In my opinion, this person must be killed. And his body must be cut into thousands of pieces and executed. Also, his family must be skinned and executed. Then, we'll tour all the countries on Earth for 3 years. Only in this way can we serve as a warning to others and form the most advantageous deterrence. We'll let those ants on Earth know the consequences of offending the holy land of West Earth." Luo Ming chuckled mischievously. "It's also good to be Xianglong's boy toy. Is this a kind of humiliation? Isn't he the most powerful person on Earth? We'll trample on the people on Earth and humiliate them in every way possible, completely destroying the self-confidence of the human race on Earth." The corners of his mouth curled up. His eyes were malicious and vicious, but his face was full of disdain. A group of low-level creatures living in a dirty garbage dump. How can they be called humans? They're even worse than animals. This time, let's show them what the most powerful person on Earth, Kang Taechu, is and how vulnerable he is. They were talking, but they deliberately used a secret method to make their voices very loud and talk in Hua Xia language so that the martial arts masters and generals present could hear them clearly. They were humiliating Jiang Tian and shaking the morale of the Earth Coalition army at the same time. "Kang Taechu, come out and meet your master. Kneel down and kowtow to this penniless monk and become this penniless monk's pet. If you serve this penniless monk well and make this penniless monk happy, I will show you mercy and spare your life." "What? You don't dare to come out? Don't worry, I'll be very gentle to you." Xianglong looked disdainfully at the 100,000 troops as if they were nothing. He slowly flew over. He thought that Jiang Tian did not dare to come out and fight with him, so he was even more arrogant and domineering. He tried his best to mock Jiang Tian to come out. At this time, Tang Linglong rose from the command center like a dragon and said with a smile, "Xianglong monk, my master is not here." Secluded cultivation. Injured? Don't talk about those useless things. You're obviously afraid of me. Xianglong laughed wildly and was very proud. In fact, he did not want to come to Earth at all. The spiritual qi here was thin and dirty. It was obviously a dirty and tiring job. But then, he realized that it was quite fun to be arrogant on Earth. Speaking of which, he was only an arhat in Mount Layin. There were many leaders, elders, abbot, sect master and elders above him. He had no status at all. But it was different on Earth. He could be called the ancestral patriarch and suppress the entire world. No wonder Jia Yi didn't want to come back after working on Earth for so long. It's really fun here. Why don't I just stay here and enjoy endless glory and wealth after conquering the Earth realm? Xianglong Mei thought unhappily. My master is afraid of you. Tang Linglong sneered and said, my master has gone to heaven. My master has already slaughtered his way up to heavenly country. He must have already crushed the sacred halls and slaughtered heavenly country. The next one will be your West Earth. After hearing that, the three experts of West Earth looked as if they had seen a ghost. Their expressions changed drastically, and their eyes were filled with astonishment and disbelief. Chapter 1070. Don't try to fool me. Xianglong was stunned for a second, then he regained his composure. He didn't believe it at all. He laughed and said, for thousands of years, no one on Earth has been able to conquer heaven, West Land, or any other dimension. This place is a land of animals and a garbage dump. Then, he looked at Tang Linglong with a sneaky look and laughed evilly. Then, he roared again, Jiang Taichu, you don't dare to come out, right? Why don't you let your disciple take your place? This little girl is pretty cute. I've always liked both men and women. I love love with impartiality and non-aggression. When she gets a taste of that wonderful feeling, she won't be able to leave. Tang Linglong's eyes became colder. You're about to die, but you don't know. Then, she shot into the air and hid behind cover. Missiles again. Are you guys retarded? Can't you see that I'm not afraid of missiles anymore? Xianglong suddenly looked up. In the sky, a few missile-like objects shot out blue tails that were a few kilometers long and whistled through the sky. This missile was obviously more powerful, but Xianglong was not afraid. Instead, he taunted with a face full of mockery. He taunted Xianglong, I heard that you've developed nuclear weapons. That's the most powerful weapon in the world. Come on. Come and hit me. Yeah. Let them release their nuclear weapons. If we can withstand it, we will destroy their confidence. Luo Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile as he thought to himself. Xianglong, these missiles are extraordinary. If you control them and destroy this army of 100,000, you and I will become famous. Superpowers like Hua Xia and the United States of America will have to submit to us. Then, we'll use them as our base to defeat Sidoni and Tianqing School. It'll be much easier to kill Kang Taichu. Irene also looked at the sky and showed a hint of disdain. Then, she spoke to Xianglong using her soul energy. That's a good plan. Xianglong raised his hand and grabbed at the air. A huge golden palm soared into the sky. However, the moment he sensed the violent energy contained within the Heaven Splitter Hammer heavy cannons, his expression changed drastically. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, Run! Go back! It was too late for Xianglong to retract his golden palm. The Heaven Splitter heavy cannon broke through 20 times the speed of sound, and the pressure was extremely violent. The overwhelming pressure was transmitted to the hands and arms of Dragon Slam's true body through the golden palm. He felt like he was being pressed down by a 10,000-ton mountain. No matter how hard he struggled, he was still pressed to the ground. What is this? Such terrifying strength. Ai Lian and Luo Ming's cultivation bases were inferior to his, so they were in an even more miserable state. They were one step ahead of him, and they were like toads that had been slapped by a giant god. Amidst their cries and screams, they heavily smashed onto the ground. Their clothes exploded, their flesh lacerated, and blood flowed out. At this moment, a total of 5 sky splitters exploded at the same time. With the 3 of them as the core, a dazzling sea of lightning exploded within a radius of 3 kilometers. The destructive power of the sky splitters was far greater than that of nuclear weapons. It could even kill a core formation stage cultivator. The 3 of them were only in the late stage of the building foundation stage. How could they withstand it? Ah! In an instant, Ai Lian let out a miserable scream, but then it came to an abrupt end. It was because her protective wind, which could withstand thousands of degrees of heat, had been shattered. Then, dozens of dazzling light shields burst out around her body. Those light shields were all good magical equipment. If they had been detonated at any other time, they would have been able to withstand the bombardment of missiles. But at this moment, the magical equipment and the shields had been shattered in less than a second. In the end, the endless pressure, the extreme heat, and the vast thunder and lightning shattered her into pieces like porcelain. She was reduced to ashes and powder, which drifted away in the air. Until the moment of her death, deep fear and shock were still lingering on her charming face, as if she couldn't believe what had just happened. On Earth, where the spiritual energy was running dry, the weak human beings had been able to create such powerful and evil magical equipment. What kind of magical equipment is this? How could it be so terrifying? Luo Ming was bombarded by the sea of thunder and lightning. He was tossed up and down like a small boat in the middle of a huge wave. He seemed to be stronger. He had withstood the attack for a few seconds, but there were already countless horrifying wounds all over his body. He was bleeding profusely. His internal organs were also injured by the pressure, which caused internal bleeding. Blood was spurting out of his eyes, ears, and mouth like arrows. I can't die. The Changshan sect seeks eternal life. I have lived for 1,000 years. How can I die? His eyes were filled with fear and madness. He roared like an injured beast. He unleashed his magical power continuously to protect himself. He exerted all his strength to dash out. In fact, after he unleashed his protective magical power, his hair had turned gray. He had chicken skin and a crane's head. His body was hunched and trembling, which made him look very old. That's right. This kind of protective magical power forcibly condensed a magical energy shield at the cost of sacrificing one's lifespan. Even if he could escape, this body could only last for 2 or 3 months. He had to find a new body to possess. However, under the combined attack of the endless sea of thunder, pressure, and high temperature, he could only dash out a dozen meters. He howled to the sky and his body was shattered. He completely disappeared from this world. The Changshan sect cultivated the art of reincarnation. They also had a secret technique to strengthen the divine soul. Otherwise, the divine soul would have been destroyed and exhausted in the repeated possession. His divine soul was not comparable to Jiang Tian's soul energy, but it could survive for a few years after leaving the body. It even had a certain level of magical power. However, under the endless power of the Sky Splitter Hammer, this divine soul didn't even last a second. It was shattered with endless despair and unwillingness. This. I have an indestructible body and I cultivate Thunder Dharma spells. How can I not withstand it? At this moment, the arrogance and domineering attitude of monk Xianglong disappeared. It was replaced by endless fear and horror. He was also extremely surprised. In today's battle, he was no longer afraid of the magnificent defensive line formed by the 30,000 soldiers. He was no longer afraid of tanks, planes, missiles, and artillery. Although these fancy tricks were weird, their lethality was too weak. However, he was a bit surprised by the puppet beasts and puppets. He could tell that these things were different from the artillery machines. His immortal will had scanned them and found that they were densely packed with array patterns. When the sky splitter hammer cannon exploded, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The cannon not only shot out shrapnel, steel balls, and metal liquid, but also terrifying lightning, immeasurable pressure, and endless heat. He had the body of diamond, which was extraordinary. He shouldn't be afraid of heat and fire at all. The secret technique of Thunder Mountain allowed him to control lightning. He could control lightning as if it was his own arm. However, he couldn't withstand the high temperature and lightning at this moment. After one breath, one of his arms and shoulders exploded. Cracks and burns were all over his body. Even his internal organs were ruptured. He opened his mouth and vomited blood. He couldn't stop at all. The sea of lightning lasted for a minute before slowly dissipating. "I'm going to skin you alive." At this moment, Monk Xianglong was both shocked and furious. He couldn't wait to rush to the command center and kill Tang Linglong and the others. But suddenly, a few small black dots appeared in the sky. Whoosh! Monk Xianglong was shocked again. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The technology on Earth was too annoying. The launcher of this evil weapon was at least thousands of kilometers away from him. If he couldn't destroy the launcher, he could only be attacked. His body was damaged and he suffered a great loss. At this moment, although he hated Jiang Tian and Tianqing School to the core and wanted to kill tens of thousands of people to vent his anger, he knew that the situation was extremely unfavorable for him. Therefore, he didn't want to fight anymore. He jumped into the air, crushed a spiritual artifact, and fled into the distance. The spiritual artifact was actually the key to forcibly open the portal. Suddenly, the earth in the area of the Death Hill trembled. Magical power gushed out, and the lightning portal condensed in the sky above the Death Hill. Although his shoulder was injured, his legs were still intact. Under the influence of fear, his magical power was also at the highest level. Therefore, he flew 10 kilometers away in just 1 second. But at this moment, surface-to-air missiles hidden in the bunkers rose into the air and shot toward him from all directions. These missiles didn't want to kill him at all. They just wanted to stop him from escaping. It would only take a few seconds. In addition, they could also increase the power of the Sky Splitter's heavy artillery. Open! 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 Monk Xianglong was like a drowning person who was entangled by some seaweed. He was upset, exasperated, and anxious to the extreme. He roared at the top of his lungs and punched and kicked like a mad tiger. Under his magical power, the missiles were blown away one by one. Some even cracked and exploded. It's close. It's even closer. Seeing that the portal was only 1 kilometer away from him, tears of joy flowed out of Monk Xianglong's eyes. At this moment, he wanted to swear to the heavens that as long as he could go back alive, he would never come to Earth again. He would never come back even if he was beaten to death. Whoever said that this place was easy to bully, he would be angry with them. It was simply too terrifying. With such a terrifying and evil spiritual artifact, not to mention a Foundation establishment cultivator, even a golden core cultivator would be killed in one hit. Fortunately, he had the diamond constitution and could control lightning, so he could hold on for a few breaths. However, at this moment, a heaven-splitting hammer, heavy cannon exploded with a loud bang above his head. Chapter 1071. Ah! Why are there still more? Do you not need money to make Dharma artifacts? Xianglong opened his mouth wide and howled. He was about to cry. In that instant, boundless lightning erupted in a frenzy, and an extremely high temperature and extreme pressure surged forth. What was even more terrifying was that the countless falling missiles and metal fragments melted into a torrent of molten steel under the high temperature. It was equivalent to adding a medium and increasing the power by 10 times. Rumble. Xianglong was completely drowned by the torrent of molten steel, lightning, and flames. His fingers exploded, his chest exploded, his legs exploded, and his head exploded. Ah! It hurts so much. Xianglong howled like a pig being slaughtered. Essence Qi erupted, and he used all his strength to rush a kilometer away and enter the teleportation portal. At this moment, he was extremely miserable. His 4 limbs were severed, and only his muscles and meridians were left. He was almost like a human stick. Half of his head had been cut off, and his chest had exploded. Even his heart had been ruptured. Even if he had an invincible Vajra body and had secret recovery techniques, it would be difficult for him to recover in less than 10 years, let alone return to his peak state. I hate you to death. Despicable and shameless sneak attacks. Xianglong gritted his teeth. He sadly realized that his manhood was gone. He was so angry that his remaining eyeball was bloodshot. He was extremely resentful. This is not over. I will definitely come back. I'm going to tear you to shreds. I'm going to wipe out everyone on Earth. Just you wait. You will come back. Are you Grey Wolf? Tang Linglong appeared in the sky above the command center and said disdainfully, don't come back. Just stay here. Give him another shot. Inside the lightning teleportation gate, there was already another world. No attack could hurt him. However, Xianglong was still scared out of his wits. He hurriedly activated the teleportation portal and turned into a crooked golden light, flying toward West Earth. In the sky, endless lightning dissipated, and molten steel scattered. The teleportation portal trembled for a while and suddenly disappeared. The battlefield returned to peace. All that was left were dilapidated walls, bullet holes, burn marks, lava flowing, and smoke billowing. If it weren't for the fact that they still existed, everyone would have thought that the world-shaking battle had never happened. The gods of West Earth have been repelled. We won. A soldier walked out from the bunker and said with a trembling voice. Everything that had just happened was too shocking. The deity from West Earth was too powerful. He faced the cannon fire head-on and moved with the wind. Every move he made seemed to have the power to destroy heaven and earth. We won. We have defeated the gods. A Huaxia general nodded slowly, his face glowing with pride like never before. Everyone present looked in the direction of the command center, where the experts of Tianqing school were, with great reverence in their eyes. They knew that from this day onwards, a great power of the present age would gradually rise, and a peerless great sect would be established. In the history of mankind, Tianqing school was the only existence that could defeat the gods of other dimensions. Heavy cannons strike 30,000 li, exterminate the experts of West Earth. Chao Shixiang's eyes were like torches. That's why he's so extraordinary. He has never been so narrow-minded as to strengthen himself. Instead, he has been igniting the flame of the cultivation civilization, spreading a higher level of civilization, and achieving rapid progress for mankind. There are no weak soldiers under his command. Even if he is not here, Tianqing school will not be at a disadvantage. Mankind on Earth will not be threatened at all. You are right, Elder Chao. Behind him, Yi Zhantian and many soldiers of the Huaxia Long formation nodded. Their eyes were full of reverence, and a strong sense of pride rose in their hearts. They straightened their backs and shared the glory. Although the Coelian system was developed in Sidoni, at least half of the scientists in the Sidoni Academy of Sciences were directly involved in the development of the system. Many research institutions in Huaxia were directly involved in the development of the system. They were all from Huaxia. 40% of the patents even belonged to the research departments of Huaxia. More than 90% of Tianqing school's students were martial artists from Huaxia. It could be said that the Coelian system was rooted in the land of Huaxia and blossomed in Sidoni. Who said that Huaxia's scientific research ability was not strong? Who said that Huaxia did not have a sense of innovation? It could be said that Huaxia was growing crazily in another direction of the technology tree. Even the United States was suppressed. Alas, a real god-killing weapon. Killing gods is as easy as cutting grass. After this battle, Tianqing School will be famous all over the world, and Sidoni will also rise to the top of the world's superpower. Huaxia will benefit immensely. Keynes said with emotion. The General of the Pentagon, the head of the United States Earth Defense Force, as the highest-ranking witness in the secular world among the people present, set the final tone for this world-shaking war. At this moment, he had to admit defeat. Everyone's hearts were filled with sorrow. Just a few months ago, when Jiang Tian slaughtered the Holy See and the Brahmin, he pushed Tianqing School to the position of the world's top orthodoxy. However, in private, many organizations and people still had doubts about him. Some extreme believers of the Holy See and the Brahmin even regarded Jiang Tian and Tianqing School as the root of the disaster. They thought that it was them who attracted the revenge of the dimensional world and led the earth into a place of eternal damnation. They were also pessimists, and they firmly believed that the gods of the dimensional world were invincible. But now, Jiang Tian had used the lives of 3 powerhouses from West Earth to announce to the world that a truly invincible orthodoxy had appeared. Even if the powerhouses from the dimensional world and Jiang Tian were not present, some disciples and the artifacts left behind by Jiang Tian could kill them. The key was that Jiang Tian was not present. This already showed that Tianqing School already had the strength to stand alone and fight against the powerhouses from the dimensional world. Now, even the United States and the European Union did not dare to compete with Jiang Tian. After all, Tianqing School and Sidoni's Sky Troop were the main forces in this final battle. If the United States and the other major countries resisted the powerhouses from West Earth, even if they used nuclear weapons, they might not be able to kill them. From now on, even Huaxia's Kunlun and the mysterious Hung Meng had to be respectful to Jiang Tian and Tianqing School. As for those who had doubted Jiang Tian's elimination of the 2 great orthodoxies as the root of the disaster, those who surrendered and those who led the way, they were all slapped in the face and could no longer doubt. And in this battle, the invasive nature of the dimensional world was clear as day. They did not want to be pacifists at all, and they did not just want to kill Jiang Tian and Tianqing School. Instead, they were ambitious, cruel, and ruthless. They saw the human race on Earth as ants and wanted to occupy Earth, enslave, and kill all humans. Everyone could clearly see how tragic the ending of the Indian general was. And Tianqing School also proved to those pessimists. The so-called gods were just slightly stronger creatures. With the wisdom and courage of the human race on Earth, they could still be killed. Sidoni became stronger, and the one who benefited was naturally Huaxia. Because the roots of Jiang Tian and Tianqing School were in Huaxia. Salute to the world's strongest powerhouse, Tianqing School's suzerain Kang Te-Chu. Salute to Tianqing School. Salute to all the commanders and soldiers of the Sky Troop. When Yi Tianren, Tang Linglong, Zhang Chenjian, Sasaki Haisha, and the others walked out of the headquarters, they were immediately greeted with earth-shattering cheers. The applause was thunderous. Countless generals, soldiers, and powerhouses from the dark world who came to watch the battle or provide assistance, the entire battlefield of 300,000 people, looked solemn and solemn. They saluted them one after another to show their highest respect. Yi Tianren looked around at the generals and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, please remember this. Whether it's Tianqing, Heavenly Kingdom, or the West Earth Dimension, they are not gods, but living beings. They are not indestructible. Today, we have successfully slaughtered the gods according to Master Kang Te-Chu's deployment. This is to prove to everyone that even if they are true gods, they are not that great. They can still be killed." As soon as these words came out, the whole place was dead silent. Everyone was shocked. That's right. Even if Kang Te-Chu was not here, his disciples could kill gods. Now, what could provoke Kang Te-Chu? It was the world's #1 orthodoxy, the #1 country. However, in the crowd, a trace of worry appeared on Chao Shixiang's face, and his brows gradually furrowed. This time, the 3 powerhouses from West Earth that Tianqing School had killed were all of high status in that world. Moreover, one of them had escaped and returned. Presumably, West Earth dimension would also be furious and carry out an even crazier revenge. If they made more preparations, there would be an even larger number of powerhouses invading. Sigh. I wonder how Jiang Tian is now. I hope that the heavens will help him and that he will return soon. Not only Chao Shixiang, but countless people present also had such hopes in their hearts. This blue planet was actually as small as a speck of dust in the vast universe. When one opened their eyes and looked at the sky, they would see the depth and terror of the universe. At this moment, Jiang Tian, just like the savior and the greatest trump card of this planet, no one could ignore his existence. Chapter 1072. The 3 invaders of West Earth had been destroyed. When the news spread, it swept across the world like a hurricane. Many media outlets carried out a series of reports and paid close attention to this matter. This time, it was different from the past. Originally, the various countries had strictly guarded the existence of the dimensional world and did not want the public to know about it. However, this time, after a close discussion between the higher-ups of the various countries, some news was released rhythmically. This was because, in the eyes of the various major countries, the real threat was the super powerhouses like Kang Taechu. They had super strong martial strength that was enough to shake the existing order. Once the ordinary people knew about it, it would overturn the foundation of governance. However, it was different now. Kang Taechu was no longer a threat to the various major countries, but an ally. It could even be said that he was a leader and a backer. Jiang Tian was connected to the fate of the entire human race on Earth, realizing a community of shared destiny. They depended on each other, shared interests, and shared a common fate. The concept of a community of shared destiny was proposed by Huaxia officials in 2011. It was now popular and highly recognized. At this moment, the biggest threat came from the dimensional world. They could even wipe out the human race on Earth and turn this world into ruins. At this time, the entire human race needed to be united and mobilize all the forces that could be mobilized. When they saw the news, the people were shocked. West Earth, as a mysterious and unknown dimensional world, had actually been invaded by a living powerhouse. This news was too shocking. Although the people did not know the specific situation, they were certain of one thing. The world's top orthodoxy, the Brahmin, was just a puppet supported by someone on Earth. The power and mystery of West Earth could be imagined. However, such a terrifying powerhouse that descended from such a terrifying world was actually killed by Kang Taechu's disciple. This was too shocking. When the authoritative media of various countries released the relevant videos, 6 billion people around the world sat in front of their televisions, holding their phones and watching carefully. Their hearts were in their mouths. Because this was the first time in history that humans on Earth were so close to an extraterrestrial civilization. In the end, some video clips were also released. Only then did the people realize that the invaders were so powerful, but the Tianqing school and the Earth's allied forces were even stronger. They had actually succeeded in killing the gods. The people kept mentioning a name, Kang Taechu. He was one of the most powerful people in the world. He had once suppressed the great powers of the world and annihilated the Holy See and Brahman. He had once slaughtered his way through the world and was unrivaled. He was Sidoni, the founder of Tianqing school. Only by raising human civilization to a new height with his own strength could he successfully stop the invasion of West Earth. It turned out that many of Jiang Tian's deeds were kept secret. But now, a lot of the information could be made public. This would be of great benefit to increasing the confidence of the humans on Earth. He is the founder of the cultivation civilization, the true hero, the hero of all mankind. Knock down the Statue of Liberty and erect a bronze statue of Kang Taechu. Many Americans clamored like this. In fact, Keynes also thought so. During the State Affairs meeting, he worked very hard to push for this matter. If a war were to break out between West Earth and Earth, it would probably exceed the scale of World War II. This would be the greatest crisis in the history of mankind. And in a crisis, liberalism was useless. Only a high degree of centralization could win. Gentlemen, we have to understand that we have to change our thinking. We even have to change our way of life, social organization, and operation. The largest and cruelest war in history has arrived. We are facing an extraterrestrial civilization, a civilization that surpasses Earth's technology. At the Earth Defense Joint Conference, the Pentagon's representative, General Keynes, spoke passionately. At this time, we need to centralize power, have sufficient material resources, maintain confidence, and unify beliefs. I suggest that not only in the United States, but also all over the world, we should erect a bronze statue of Kang Tae-chu. Let this fearless spiritual fire spread all over the world. The 5 permanent members all expressed no objection. However, Sidoni rejected it. This matter could only be decided after the sect master returned. By the Coelian system now. Is it too late? The Prime Minister of Japan pleaded with Sidoni and Hua Xia in a pitiful tone. A Prime Minister of Russia also looked nervously at Jiang Qinzhen and the others. When the Coelian test fired, many big countries expressed that they wanted to buy it. However, the upper echelon's power operations and games were very complicated. In the end, Japan and Russia did not really buy it. This was because at that time, Japan had already reorganized the cabinet to get rid of the control of Jiang Tian's divine sense. The new cabinet was abnormally afraid and rejected Kang Tae-chu. They even thought that Jiang Tian's words about the impending invasion of alien civilizations were nonsense. They wanted to take advantage of the situation and start a non-existent arms race to make a fortune. The Russian intelligence agencies were more complicated, and they had already been in contact with the wolf ancestor and the kindred. They did not deny the existence of special creatures or even alien civilizations. However, the Russian upper echelons believed that they should independently develop a super-nuclear bomb and get rid of the control of Sidoni and Hua Xia to achieve a great victory in the arms race. They could even crush Hua Xia, Sidoni, and the United States, who were equipped with this weapon defense system. However, they did not expect that before the development of a super-nuclear bomb, West Earth was already close at hand. Moreover, many data about the strong people of West Earth had been released. According to the current design standards, the nuclear bomb they developed could not effectively kill these strong people. Moreover, these 3 invaders were not the top strong people. If more and stronger people of West Earth invaded, they would not be able to resist. Jiang Qinzhen was not good with words. At this time, Chen Yang, the president of Sidoni, smiled sinisterly. He thought to himself, I told you to buy it, but you didn't buy it. Now, I'm going to raise the price. Making money was one thing, but more importantly, Sony had to control the Coelian. After learning about Jiang Tian's deeds, many forums about superpowered people and cultivators were established. Many people thought that Kang Tae-chu was like Superman in comics and movies and should come from a planet with a high civilization. In this regard, Sidoni and Tianqing School kept it a secret. After learning that Kang Tae-chu was very young, handsome, and deeply in love with his lover, many women around the world regarded Jiang Tian as their ideal idol and became his loyal fans. A fan club of more than 100 million people was quickly formed. Young men were not even qualified to carry shoes for him. There were even singers who released a single, "If you want to marry, you should marry a man like Kang Tae-chu." It was very popular and was widely sung. Not only the ordinary people, but also the top cultivation forces in Hua Xia, such as Hongmeng and Kunlun, were paying close attention to Jiang Tian's movements. They could no longer ignore him. This time, Jiang Tian didn't make an appearance, only his disciples taking action, yet it made his name truly resound under the heavens, everyone knowing about him. Chapter 1073. In the time passage from the heavenly kingdom dimension to earth, Jiang Tian released endless vermilion bird light, enveloping himself and Huang Linger. He was calm and collected as he rushed over like lightning. Boom! Finally, the holy light in front flickered violently and then suddenly disappeared. Jiang Tian and Huang Linger had already landed on the ground. It was the holy tomb. It was originally the place where Saint Adam and Saint Paul slept, but now, it had been leveled and a tall bronze statue had been built. His long robes fluttered in the wind, and his face was as handsome as a god's. His eyes were arrogant as he looked down on the world, but there was also a hint of hidden compassion. Beside him was the Xianxue Azure Dragon, the whirling divine tree, and the Gengjin divine general. Messiah was prostrating and praying devoutly in front of the bronze statue when he suddenly saw the door of holy light open. Then, Jiang Tian and Huang Linger appeared together. It must be an illusion. How can it be so fast? He rubbed his eyes hard, thinking that he was seeing things. Jiang Tian chuckled. You're not seeing things. Ah. It's really Sect Master Jiang. You're finally back. Tai Chu bless you. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Messiah was convinced that Jiang Tian had really returned. He couldn't help but tremble with excitement as he called out in surprise. His eyes were wet. But as soon as he said that, he felt that it was very awkward and contradictory. Jiang Tian was worshipped by them as a true god, an omniscient and omnipotent god. Tai Chu bless me, thanks to Tai Chu's blessings, or I swear in the name of Tai Chu, had become the catchphrase of many believers. But in fact, why would Jiang Tian need his own protection? That didn't make sense logically. Jiang Tian smiled and said, all right, cut the crap. What's the situation now? West Earth invaded, but they were repelled by the powerhouses of Tianqing School. Messiah quickly reported concisely. Sect Master, you're finally back. At this time, the Wolf King also rushed over after hearing the news. He kowtowed with tears streaming down his face. In fact, everyone knew that Tianqing School's victory at Death Hill was just a warm-up for this war. There would be even more intense battles in the future. Therefore, the Wolf King and everyone else's hearts were hanging by a thread. At this time, Jiang Tian returned. His heart was completely at ease. Jiang Tian glanced at him and asked, how are my wife and child? Very good, very healthy. Alexander reported. Yes. Good. Get up. I'll return to Sidoni right away. Jiang Tian nodded. Keynes, Chao Shixiang, and the other leaders have some follow-up matters to discuss with you. He's waiting outside the door. The Wolf King hesitated for a moment before probing. Jiang Tian's words clearly meant that he was going to step on his sword and fly back to Sidoni. However, the political leaders of various countries had been waiting for Jiang Tian for many years. But they didn't know how to fly. Jiang Tian frowned and said, I have to hurry home and take a look. How about this, prepare a commercial plane or a fighter jet. I'll take the plane home. They'll accompany me. We'll have the meeting on the plane. Your private plane is at Rome International Airport. The Wolf King asked with trepidation, but the Russian Emperor hasn't arrived yet. Do you want to wait? He said that as long as you come back, he will only need 3 hours to take a private plane. What do you think? Nothing is more important than me going home to accompany my wife. Jiang Tian's voice suddenly turned cold. The Wolf King Alexander was so scared that his entire body trembled. He hurriedly bowed and said, this subordinate understands. If it was before, Jiang Tian would at least maintain superficial respect and courtesy when he met the leaders of large countries like the Russian Emperor and the President of the United States. After all, although Sidoni was powerful, other countries also had their own advantages. But now, Huaxia and Sidoni were the most important countries in the Earth Defense Alliance. Because he controlled the core technology of the only Koalian that could kill the powerhouses of the dimensional world, Jiang Tian's international status had long left the Russian Emperor far behind. It would be giving him too much face to ask Jiang Tian to wait for him. Moreover, Jiang Tian was now the master of the heavenly state and the star dimension. The area there surpassed Earth, and the civilization there was more advanced. Why would he care about the leader of a mortal country like the Russian Emperor? The Wolf King immediately made the arrangements. A moment later, Jiang Tian and Huang Linger, accompanied by Messiah and the Wolf King, arrived at the airport. Keynes, Chao Shixiang, the president of the European Union, Jung, and many other officials and dignitaries gathered and waited for a long time. When they saw Jiang Tian arrive, they were so excited that they couldn't stop crying. They all bowed to Jiang Tian to show the highest respect. There was no need to ask. Jiang Tian's safe return was equivalent to announcing that Jiang Tian had taken over the heavenly state dimension. At this time, Jiang Tian had already dominated 3 worlds and was the supreme ruler. Jiang Tian didn't bother to be polite with them. He just wanted to go home as soon as possible, so he hurriedly boarded the plane. On the plane, Keynes and the others immediately reported the situation to Jiang Tian. They reported that India had rebelled temporarily and wanted to surrender to West Earth. They also asked Jiang Tian to make a decision. In fact, other than the Indian general who had rebelled temporarily, there were many members of the upper class of India who were extremely Brahmin believers and looked forward to the arrival of West Earth. Our Pentagon spies in the Indian military obtained intelligence. In the process of your advancement to the Holy See, the president of the Indian National Academy of Sciences, Raman, once suggested to the Department of Defense to launch nuclear weapons on you. Keynes' eyes were like torches as he said in a deep voice, but because the Brahmin was very confident in this battle, Gaia expressed that he could kill you, and the Indian military was also worried that it would cause conflicts and local wars in Central Asia. In the end, this proposal was rejected. What else do you want to ask? Execute him. Jiang Tian frowned and said softly, don't wait for the International Court of Justice. Let's not wait for the International Military Court. I think it's too slow. We want to form our own joint court and don't need any defense procedures. Once the investigation is confirmed, he will be executed immediately. Isn't this suspected of interfering in the internal affairs of other countries? Will it violate international law? Will it cause their counterattack? European Union President Jung wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The others also looked uneasy. Jiang Tian's actions were too extreme. If you don't kill him, then I'll kill him myself. I don't even need to do anything for this kind of person to die. Jiang Tian's posture was lazy, but his gaze was as sharp as a blade as he said indifferently, do you know that if I wasn't there, if the Kualian and Tianqing school weren't there, it would only take a month for the West Earth dimension and their henchmen to wipe out all the humans on Earth? Yes, we understand. Keynes, Jung, and the others nodded their heads vigorously. Jiang Tian was suddenly taken aback. He didn't say a word as a glint of darkness flashed in his eyes. He thought of his last life, 8,000 years later, after he had ascended to the divine realm. The entire Earth and even the Milky Way had become a dark zone. There was no life, no matter, and no time. It must have been wiped out by the divine realm. In this cruel, cold, and endless vast universe, Earth, a tiny blue planet, must strive to develop, strengthen itself, and dare to raise its eyebrows and draw its sword against any invaders. Capitulationism and defeatism were not acceptable. Those who led the way had to be killed. In fact, Jiang Tian didn't know when the Earth and the Milky Way had been destroyed in his last life. But a conservative guess was that it would take at least a few hundred years. Jiang Tian still had enough time to save the civilization. But the premise was that the entire Earth and all the humans had to be united. Fortresses were often breached from the inside. Losing humanity meant losing a part of it. But losing the bestial nature meant losing everything. In the face of a calamity, if one didn't have the courage to cut off all means of retreat, if one didn't have the ruthlessness and decisiveness to sweep away all obstacles, and if one didn't have the ruthlessness to nip the bad seeds in the bud, before West Earth attacked, the various countries on Earth would have already started fighting. It might even be the Third World War. Chapter 1074. Immediately, the Earth Defense Alliance issued an announcement that they would file a lawsuit against those rebels and sentence them to death. When the news came, the world was in an uproar. At this time, Jiang Tian had returned to Sidonie and came to the training hall of Tianqing School. Jiang Tian, you're back. Qing'er came out to greet him. Only now was she told that Jiang Tian had made a trip to the Kingdom of Heaven. Jiang Tian nodded, revealing a touch of joy. His divine sense had already scanned that Qing'er's cultivation had returned to the peak of qi refining stage, and the child in her belly was also very healthy. It seemed that using the spiritual energy seed to maintain the vitality of Qing'er and his baby daughter was indeed effective. I'm really sorry that this time, I didn't fight side by side with you. Zhao Xueqing's face was full of apology, and tears were flickering in her beautiful eyes. Although she didn't go to the kingdom of heaven personally, she could imagine the danger of that battle. Presumably, there were many strong people there, and even Jiang Tian might be injured. Because she knew that in Jiang Tian's heart, she and his baby daughter must be the most important, and he always cared about them. If Jiang Tian wasn't injured, he would definitely come back as soon as possible. However, Jiang Tian was delayed in the kingdom of heaven for several months. There was only one explanation, and that was that Jiang Tian was injured and was healing. You and the child's health is more important than anything else, Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, Zhao Xueqing took Huang Linger's hand and smiled. Linger, this trip to the kingdom of heaven, you've worked hard. Huang Linger shook her head gently and said with shame, I didn't help much and became a burden. The strong people in the kingdom of heaven are too powerful. Linger, how powerful are the strong people in the kingdom of heaven? Qing'er was surprised. Ling-er was now at the early stage of foundation establishment. She was on par with Yi Tianren and Sita Shao. She said that the experts in Heavenly Kingdom were so powerful. It was obvious that they were really terrifying. After Huang Linger finished talking, Zhao Xueqing's face revealed a trace of worry and said in a solemn voice, this Heavenly Kingdom world is actually not inferior to Heavenly Star. There are actually experts who have lived for tens of thousands of years, as well as giants and elves. I'm afraid it's the same for the other dimensional worlds. It seems like we have to raise our cultivation. At this time, the most important thing for you is to take care of the fetus. With your husband here, don't worry, they won't be able to break in. Jiang Tian smiled warmly with a hint of praise. However, Ling-er blocked the sacred ancestors' attack for me and gave me some time to catch my breath. Otherwise, I would have been beaten up by Qi Liao. Huang Linger was praised by Jiang Tian. She was both embarrassed and happy. She lowered her head and didn't say anything. Zhao Xueqing also knew that Huang Linger had deep feelings for Jiang Tian. However, the two of them had always been restrained by their feelings. However, Jiang Tian had been reborn, and his mentality was already different from ordinary people. He sighed with emotion in his heart. Zhao Xueqing changed the topic and revealed a hint of worry. Jiang Tian, the first wave of experts from West Earth has already attacked. What are your plans? Jiang Tian said indifferently, I'll first set up a defensive array formation. Then, I'll attack West Earth and beat them until they submit. In fact, what Jiang Tian wanted to set up was not a defensive array formation, but the 9 Dragons Guiding Spirit Array. It was just that he didn't want Qing'er to worry about her physique, so he didn't say it clearly. This array formation could be called an unparalleled array formation in the cultivation world. It was abnormally huge, and its surging power was directed to the depths of Earth. Then, with many spiritual energy recovery seeds as primers, it could trigger the spiritual energy contained in planet extermination in the depths of Earth to erupt and flow into Qing'er's body. This was equivalent to, gathering half of the spiritual energy contained in ancient Earth into Qing'er's body would definitely be able to nourish the 2 pure phoenix immortal bodies to the greatest extent. At that time, not only would they not have to worry about their lives, they could even achieve the ultimate sublimation of their physique and nurture a supreme immortal fetus. Jiang Tian's way of playing could be said to be extremely extravagant. If it wasn't for the many accumulations he had in Heavenly State and Heavenly Star, it would be impossible to create such a large array formation with just the natural treasures on Earth. This large array formation had almost exhausted all of the array formation materials that Jiang Tian had plundered in the 2 dimensions. However, this matter concerned the lives of his wife and children. Jiang Tian definitely wouldn't allow any mistakes. Jiang Tian immediately began to lead Zhang Qinzhen, Hong Yi, and the others from the crafting hall to survey the surrounding terrain. This time, The array formation covered an area of 10 kilometers, which had already exceeded the range of Tianqing School's dojo. After completing the survey, Jiang Tian immediately declined the visitors. He didn't leave the dojo at all. Instead, he led Hong Yi and the others to draw the design of the array formation. By then, even if he wasn't there, Hong Yi, Zhang Chenzhen, and the others could still follow the design and set up the array formation. After spending a few days, Jiang Tian led everyone to complete the design of the array formation. The corresponding materials were also prepared. This was done by Jiang Tian. In his previous life, he had experienced ups and downs for thousands of years. In terms of array formation attainments, he could be said to be a grandmaster. Therefore, everything was done with great ease. Even Hong Yi, a famous array formation expert in Southeast Asia, might not be able to complete it in his lifetime. A few days later. Oh my God, this array formation is so vast. Seeing the embryonic form of the array formation, Hong Yi, Zhang Chenzhen, and the others suddenly looked as if they had seen a heavenly book. This array formation is divided into 5 major components. There are more than 10,000 components of the array formation. There are more than 30,000 crystals. These components are so exquisite. They contain a lot of profound array formation knowledge. They have enlightened me a lot. This array formation was vast and extremely complicated. It was like a colossal object, and its scale was even several times larger than the sunflower lotus system. If the Kuelian system hadn't been tested successfully and played a huge role in stopping the invaders from West Earth, Hong Yi wouldn't have been able to complete it. Hong Yi and Zhang Chenzhen would have doubted whether the array formation could work successfully. They wouldn't dare to take the risk. Don't worry. This is a spirit gathering and spirit channeling array. It's not a weapon. Even if the system makes a mistake, it won't be a big threat. Jiang Tian's eyes were burning like torches. Once this array formation works, the entire Sidonie and even half of the earth will become a sacred place for cultivation. It's comparable to the dimensional world. What? Comparable to the dimensional world? Huang Linger and Yi Tianren were shocked after hearing this. The old dragon was so shocked that his body swayed and he sat on the ground. They had followed Jiang Tian to the dimensional world. Although the cultivators in the dimensional world were superior and regarded the humans on Earth as ants, the spiritual chi of the dimensional world was very powerful. But they had to admit that. The spirit chi in the dimensional world was indeed 10 times or even 100 times more than that on Earth. The cultivation speed was also several times faster and the overlords were also numerous. In Heavenly Star and Heavenly State, there were at least a few thousand Foundation Establishment overlords and there were even Golden Core overlords. But on Earth, there were only a few Foundation Establishment overlords. There were less than 50 Foundation Establishment cultivators, and many of them had condensed their blood and stopped their lifespan over hundreds of years. That's right. This time, I'm not only doing it for myself and Sidonie, but also for the recovery of the spirit chi on Earth. Jiang Tian looked into the distance and sighed softly. On Earth, there used to be a brilliant cultivation civilization. However, due to various reasons, the spiritual energy in the world declined, and we entered the Age of Doom. The orthodoxy was gradually cut off and disappeared. Earth could have been more powerful. Once the spirit chi on Earth recovers, Earth will become a cultivation planet. Only when the overlords come out together can we get rid of the fate of being enslaved and destroyed in the future. You have to know that you have to be strong to forge iron. That had always been Jiang Tian's philosophy. Relying on the heavens, the earth and fate was unreliable. One had to rely on oneself and be independent. In the face of a crisis, one had to work hard and develop to strengthen oneself. There was nothing that couldn't be defeated. As Jiang Tian spoke, his expression was as calm as still water, and his voice was neither fast nor slow. But to everyone, it was like thunder in their ears. Their divine souls shook and their jaws almost fell to the ground. They couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian's vision was really sharp. His vision was not limited to a country, a city, or a place, but the whole world. With the spirit chi revival seeds as the primer and the unparalleled array as the driving force, he triggered the shocking magical treasures of the ancient times to revive the spirit chi on Earth. Finally, he achieved the goal of evolving human beings and resisting the invaders of other dimensions and even more powerful worlds. What kind of breadth of mind was this? What kind of great talent was that? What kind of earth-shattering achievement was that? It could be said that he was changing the direction of human civilization and achieving a leap and evolution of Earth and human beings. It could even be said that Jiang Tian had opened another door for the advancement of human civilization. Both technology and cultivation were equally matched. However, this matter needs to be pushed forward slowly and with extreme caution. Jiang Tian's face was slightly solemn. The recovery of spirit chi will cause a great change in the world and even some kind of turmoil. The world's superpowers must be fully prepared to guard against it. It will cause chaos in the world. Huang Linger exclaimed. Of course. Next to her, Yi Tianren's eyes were like torches and he interrupted with a solemn face. According to legend, in the ancient times, before the twilight of the gods, on ancient Earth, gods, humans, monsters, and spirits lived side by side. Master has realized the recovery of spirit chi on Earth. It is expected that not only humans will evolve, but also beasts and spirits will appear. This is an unprecedented challenge for the human race. It may even suppress the human race. Monsters, Huang Linger suddenly remembered the fire-breathing pterosaur on the Mangum Mountain in the Kingdom of Heaven. A trace of fear appeared on her face and she said with worry, if we do this, won't we be plunging the entire human race into a huge crisis? As soon as these words came out, everyone present also looked at Jiang Tian uneasily, as if waiting for Jiang Tian's answer. Chapter 1075. But Jiang Tian didn't answer. Instead, his expression changed slightly. He stepped into the air and flew out of the door to the roof of the central hall of Tianqing School. From here, one could overlook the entire Tianqing School's Taoist field, the capital of San Juan in the south, and the magnificent Coelian Mountains. Standing proudly in the air, a strong sense of pride suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart. Why don't you come out to meet me? Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and an exquisite small table appeared on the roof of the hall. On it were wine cups and jugs made of green jade. Jiang Tian waved his hand and the jug flew to him. The clear immortal wine from Star World was poured into the wine cup with great precision. The aroma of the wine overflowed. Then, he warmed it with the fire of the vermilion bird. Instantly, the aroma spread for 10 miles and intoxicated countless people. Good wine. Seeing immortal Master Zhang's skill in warming wine, I really wasted my time in this world. I don't know anything about wine. Deep in the clouds, an old man in a loose robe stood in the air. He was bathed in the moonlight and stood on the clouds like an immortal. Since ancient times, the sages have been lonely. Only the drinkers leave their names. This wine is called Drunken Immortal. It's the collection of heaven and earth Taoist Li Long Yuan from Star World. Sir, you have the style of an immortal. This wine is really good for you. Jiang Tian made an inviting gesture. The old man came so fast. He didn't even move his legs. In a flash, he crossed the distance of several kilometers and sat down in front of Jiang Tian. He picked up the wine cup and drank it. Then, his eyes lit up and he praised, as expected of an immortal wine. Good wine. Li Wuji, sect master of Kunlun sect. Jiang Tian also sat down across from him and said with a careless smile, among the many famous mountains in Huaxia, your Kunlun sect is the ancestral court of Taoism and is respected by the world. And I once defeated Zhang Qianlei of the celestial master sect of Mount Longhu, killed Qin Pingan of the ancient martial sect, and executed Hao Taichong of the Amei sect. The number of Dao sect disciples who died by my hands is innumerable. Are you here for a fight, or just to drink? This person was none other than the sect leader of the Kunlun sect, Li Wuji. His seniority was very high, and he had lived a long life. His cultivation level was unfathomable. Even Yi Tianren, who was strong, had received his guidance in the past. He was the world wayfarer of the Kunlun sect. He represented the Kunlun sect in interfering with the secular world and turned the tide. The Kunlun sect was ethereal and mysterious. It was far away from the secular world and was known as the real hidden sect. They would not easily come out of the mountains unless the world was truly destroyed. It was said that the dojo was hidden in the depths of a space array and was located in a folded space. In essence, it could even be said to be the dimensional world closest to Earth. Jiang Tian had slaughtered many semi-hidden sects in Huaxia, stirring up a storm of blood time and time again, but the Kunlun sect had always stood aside and never intervened. An old man is not senile yet. Li Wuji fiddled with the wine glass and said with a smile, "Everyone knows that you, Kang Te-chu, are a murderous maniac with blood-stained hands. But I know that you, Kang Te-chu, have never killed the innocent or bullied the weak. Those you kill are those who deserve to be killed. Ha, I'll drink to my heart's content with your words." Jiang Tian laughed heartily. He picked up the wine glass and drank it in one gulp, then poured more wine for Li Wuji. At this time, Yi Tianren went to the roof and bowed with deep gratitude and respect. He said, "Unworthy disciple, Yi Tianren, greets master." "Greetings, sect leader." As for the others, they were not qualified to come up to greet Li Wuji. Only Huang Linger helped to pour wine. "Heavenly man, get up." Li Wuji showed a hint of appreciation and smiled warmly. Yi Tianren stood aside respectfully. Li Wuji shook his head and said with a smile, "I can't be your master. Back then, I only gave you a few pointers and didn't hold a disciple recruitment ceremony. I can't be your sect leader either." "Why?" Yi Tianren was surprised. "I've already handed over the position of sect leader to Ji Muxian. Now, he's just an idle person." Li Wuji said with a smile. Well, Yi Tianren was stunned. He suddenly remembered that Li Wuji was already 500 years old, and he was only at the third level of the Foundation establishment realm. He was probably nearing the end of his life. The spirit chi on Earth was severely depleted. At the level of the Foundation establishment realm, being powerful didn't mean that one could live longer. Without the nourishment of external spirit chi, one's body would wither and collapse at any time. It was like a strong man who needed more food to nourish himself. The stronger he was, the more energy he would consume. According to Jiang Tian, one could only rely on the accumulated true essence to slowly release it and maintain a longer lifespan unless they formed a golden core. Therefore, he changed the topic and nodded in admiration. "Junior brother Muxian is extremely talented and has amazing comprehension. You also have great wisdom and perseverance. In the future, you will definitely bring glory to the Kunlun sect." Yi Tianren was unyielding and unyielding. He was never weaker than others in his life. He dared to raise his sword to the heavens and fight against immortals. There were only two people he admired in his life. One was naturally Jiang Tian, and the other was Ji Muxian. When Yi Tianren joined Kunlun, Ji Muxian was only in his teens, but he had already reached the immortal state. After decades of hard work, he might have reached the Foundation establishment realm. Of course, the Kunlun sect was a paradise. It was full of spiritual energy and was blessed by nature. Moreover, there were many martial arts inheritances from the pre-Qin period. This was also the condition for his rapid progress. However, Jiang Tian had also traveled through space and had a lifespan of 10,000 years. His martial arts experience was also superior to Ji Muxian's. Therefore, in this aspect, Ji Muxian might even surpass Jiang Tian in terms of talent and physique. Ha, what's there to bring glory to? The Kunlun sect is far away from the secular world and doesn't care about worldly affairs. We are not like immortal Master Jiang, who has great talent and great vision to govern the world and help the people. We are only searching for the truth of life and our true nature. Li Wuji smiled faintly and shook his head gently. His attitude was humble and detached from worldly affairs. "Please don't laugh at me, brother Wuji," Jiang Tian said politely. I am the kind of person who can't see the light. I seek fame and fortune, work hard in the secular world, and indulge in love. I am not like Brother Wuji, who is indifferent and has great vision. It is admirable. Although Jiang Tian said so, there was no trace of respect in his words. Li Wuji just casually agreed and sipped a few mouthfuls of wine with Jiang Tian. Immortal Master Jiang, you have killed many people in the heavenly state and heavenly star domains. Have you reached the Golden Core realm? Suddenly, Li Wuji asked with a hopeful face. No. I am only at the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Jiang Tian didn't hide and said bluntly, it's just that I have a special physique that allows me to unleash super powerful combat power and defeat Golden Core realm cultivators. Special physique? Li Wuji's eyes lit up, revealing a hint of envy as he exclaimed in admiration. In the field of martial arts and sorcery in Huaxia, there is no one who can rely on body refinement to raise their combat power to the level of Golden Core realm cultivators. For example, external physique refinement grandmasters can only stop at the immortal state if they forcefully refine their bodies. Moreover, it will damage their lifespan. Therefore, they usually need to nourish their bodies with powerful medicines. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said, my body refinement technique is also nourished by supreme medicines. It will not damage my lifespan. In fact, he still had some reservations. These divine bodies were refined with the most precious treasures. Not only would they not damage one's lifespan, but they would also prolong it. Hearing this, Li Wuji's face became even more envious. He shook his head and sighed. Alas, Immortal Master Jiang, you have reached the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm at such a young age. You are better than the old man. The old man has been cultivating diligently all these years for nothing. I'm afraid the old man has no hope of reaching the Golden Core realm in this lifetime. Fellow Taoist Jiang, on the other hand, has a high chance of reaching the Golden Core realm and transcending this world. Sensing the bleakness in this person's words, Jiang Tian felt sad. Yi Tianren also looked sad. Although Jiang Tian adhered to the principle of education without discrimination, he would not easily impart supreme cultivation techniques to Li Wuji. Even if he did, he would only do so after Li Wuji was loyal and reliable. Jiang Tian changed the topic and said seriously, fellow Taoist Wuji, why are you looking for me? Li Wuji's face was slightly solemn. He glanced at Huang Linger and said, Immortal Master Jiang, just now this girl was worried that the recovery of spirit qi would cause chaos in the world. In fact, the old man was also worried about this. Immortal Master Jiang, this is a serious matter. You have to think twice before you act. Chapter 1076. Brother Wuji, have you ever read an article called Warning of the Enemy? Jiang Tian asked. People like Li Wuji had long been well versed in both Eastern and Western medicine. He immediately nodded and said, a short article by Lu Zongyuan of the Tang dynasty. Jiang Tian stood up with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Sidoni San Juan and the villas of the immortal healing village and said slowly, people have always regarded enemies as scourges. Those who are weak will avoid them and those who are strong will eradicate them. Only Lu Zongyuan thought that having enemies is a good thing. Back then, the Qin state had 6 enemies, so they were cautious. After eliminating the 6 nations and unifying the world, because there was no threat from the enemy, they relaxed and relaxed, falling into decline. The existence of enemies made us not arrogant and impatient. We were careful and did not let ourselves get carried away. As the saying goes, punishing the sick will shorten the life. If we don't stop indulging, we will be foolish. In Europe, after the Roman Empire, countries fought for supremacy. Just like our spring and autumn period, there were endless wars. For a country to survive in such an environment, they must work hard. As for Huaxia, for the past 2,000 years after the unification of the Qin dynasty, it has almost always been a situation where one country is the strongest. There is no other country in the vicinity that has the population and economic strength to compete with the Central Empire for a long time. Without a strong enemy, without external pressure, the internal situation would naturally deteriorate. There was no horn at the frontier, but there was singing and dancing. Since the Qin dynasty, the history of the empire was worse than the previous generation. The spirit of the entire society was deteriorating. It was the long-term effect of this historical environment that made people addicted to peace and happiness. They did not want to make progress, were timid and apathetic. It was because of this that there was the 100 years of suffering and humiliation in Huaxia's modern history. A country is like this, a civilization is also like this. The thousands of years of human civilization is empty inside. After thousands of years, it has long been completely decayed. Jiang Tian's words were shocking. Li Wuji nodded slightly and fell into deep thought. Jiang Tian said leisurely, "Brother Wuji, you should know about the existence of the ruins of immortality." "Of course." Li Wuji's eyes lit up and he nodded. "I heard that during the ancient times, there were invasions from the outer realms. Many powerful beings were no match for them, and some of them began to flee. They used the fragments of the ancient earth to create many multidimensional worlds. Heavenly State is the dimensional world of ancient Europe, while West Earth should belong to the civilization of ancient India. And the ancient Huaxia continent gave birth to the most dimensional worlds. With the ruins of immortality as the leader, there are also Heavenly Star and many other dimensional worlds. The ruins of immortality and the multidimensional worlds are hostile to Earth." Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a long look in his eyes, "Once they attack, it will be the end of the world." That was because the humans on Earth were too far behind those from the cultivation civilization. They were not on the same level. It's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'm afraid the entire human civilization on Earth won't last a year. And the recovery of spirit energy will achieve the simultaneous evolution of humans and other creatures on Earth. That's right. These commonly seen wolves, insects, tigers, and leopards will all evolve into demonic beasts that are as strong as mountains and wage war against humans. But they are still on the same order of magnitude as the humans on Earth. The humans on Earth can strengthen themselves and evolve their civilization by hunting them down. This is still just a trial, nothing more. Our real enemy is the ruins of immortality, or even in the depths of the starry sky, a greater threat. Jiang Tian's eyes were fixed as he sighed deeply. A greater threat in the starry sky. Li Wuji's eyes were filled with shock. Do you mean that there are really extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial civilizations? The universe looks empty, but it's actually very crowded. Jiang Tian looked up at the stars in the sky and didn't answer directly. Instead, he smiled and said, "It's like an ant on a leaf. It feels that the leaf is very empty, but for a caterpillar, the leaf is too narrow. A caterpillar feels that a big tree is very vast, but to a monkey, a big tree is very narrow. If a dozen monkeys are on a tree, they will have to fight each other. The first law of the universe is that the higher the level of a civilization, the more resources it needs and the more space it will occupy. On the surface, the resources of the universe seem to be inexhaustible, but in fact, with the improvement of civilization and the increase of power, a planet, a star field, or even a galaxy's resources will be scarce or even exhausted at any time. So, the threat is always there." What fellow cultivator Absolute Beginning said makes so much sense. His words are like a wake-up call to me. Li Wuji slapped his thigh and praised. Then, he shook his head with a wry smile. Our Kunlun sect has succeeded because of the 4 words tranquility and inaction, and we have failed because of these 4 words. Old man, I don't know if you're from another planet or if you're the reincarnation of an old man, but you have such a great ability, a broad vision, and a deep understanding of the world. Old man, I'm not as good as you. Yi Tianren also agreed. The most powerful beings on this planet, such as Jiang Tian, Genichi Miyamoto, the blood ancestor, Nie Mingyuan and Jia Yi, had once fought to the death. They were fighting for cultivation resources. Because the spirit chi and heavenly materials and earthly treasures on Earth had been exhausted, if they didn't fight for them, they would never be able to advance. It was like a few caterpillars on a leaf. The caterpillars looked small, but they felt that it was too crowded. For ordinary people, the exploitation of resources on Earth in the past few thousand years was still limited to the land under their feet. However, many resources on Earth had not been exhausted yet, and humans had already begun to reach out to other planets. Just like in the age of the Great Voyage, Europe opened up and looked for new trade routes and partners, and even started wars and colonized other countries, achieving the rise of capitalism and modern countries. The government of the Qing dynasty was arrogant and closed the country. If they lost this opportunity, they would fall behind and be beaten. In the future, humans would enter the age of interstellar travel and launch a new round of competition. The territory of activities would be greatly expanded. My friend, please don't laugh at me. Jiang Tian smiled and said. My small dojo is only a few thatched cottages. It's not as rich as the Kunlun sect and has the foundation left by the predecessors. It's like a rootless duckweed with no support. It has no choice but to compete with others for small benefits. Alas, Tai Chu, you're too modest. Li Wuji looked at the Tianqing school dojo, which was full of spirit qi, with a hint of envy on his face. He shook his head and sighed. The Kunlun sect lives in sorrow and dies in peace. It's because they thought that they had a strong foundation that they lost the courage to forge ahead. Now, they are in decline. Unlike you, my friend Jiang, who is working hard to conquer the world, the Tianqing school is full of powerful cultivators and is full of vitality. Its foundation is not worse than Kunlun's. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, Tianqing school has a good foundation in the Tianqing school. The Tianqing school does have good things. Kang Te Chu, even have supreme cultivation methods. Now, the spirit qi on Earth is scarce and there are few cultivation resources. If you want to fight for them, you can try. Hearing this, Yi Tianren suddenly became nervous and his whole body tensed up. Huang Linger, who was pouring wine for Jiang Tian and Li Wuji, turned pale. Her right hand trembled and the jade wine cup fell to the ground with a clang. Chapter 1077. Ha ha ha. My friend Tai Chu, please don't make such a joke. Look at how scared these two juniors are. Li Wuji, however, threw his head back and laughed. When Kang Te Chu was weak, I might have been able to take it from you. But now, you can fight against a golden core cultivator. How can an old man fight against a monster like you? Besides, I heard that your Koelian can even kill a golden core cultivator. I don't want to mess with you. You and I are both the mainstays of Huaxia. Now that the enemy is in front of us, wouldn't it make our enemies happy? Ha, do you agree with me now? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. Listening to you is better than studying for 10 years. Now that we're involved in a war of civilizations, this old man can't just sit back and watch. We have to fight against the dimensional world and restore the spirit qi. This old man is willing to help Master Immortal Jiang. Li Wuji put away his smile and nodded. Good, good. Senior Li, you're right. The Kunlun sect and Tianqing school are two top sects in Huaxia. It's great that we can work together to fight against the dimensional world. Once this news is announced, the world will be shocked. Yi Tianren said excitedly. The Kunlun sect was a peerless sect. It relied on the yin and yang dust array to fold in a small dimensional world at the top of the Kunlun sect. There were tens of thousands of disciples in this world with a radius of dozens of miles. All of them were powerful and had amazing power. Li Wuji said, Master Immortal Jiang, Heavenly Being, I have another suggestion. Fellow Taoist, please feel free to speak your mind. Master Immortal Jiang, do you have a way to break open the dimensional door on the Death Hill? Li Wuji asked. I think so. Jiang Tian nodded. According to Jiang Tian's speculation, there should be a teleportation array under the Death Hill. The Death Hillock explosion back then should have been caused by the unstable energy of the teleportation array, or by someone forcefully breaking it open. But as long as the teleportation array was still there, Jiang Tian, who was now at the 4th level of the Foundation establishment stage and had the strength to kill Golden Core cultivators, could break it open by force or by trickery using the secret space key. If Immortal Master Jiang is willing, this old man is willing to accompany Immortal Master Jiang to conquer West Earth. Li Wuji cupped his fists and said emotionally. Huang Linger's expression changed slightly. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure it out for a while. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian said without hesitation, "All right, fellow Taoist Li. Then let's fight side by side. You can even bring a few disciples with you and treat it as an experience." Beside him, Yi Tianren nodded in agreement. This time, Huang Linger accompanied Jiang Tian to the Heavenly Kingdom. Although she didn't help much, it trained her combat awareness and was of great benefit. Tang Linglong commanded the Battle of the Death Hill, and it was also obvious that she had improved. "Ha, no wonder your Tianqing school has grown so strong so quickly. There are no weak soldiers in the school. It turns out that there are great teachers like you. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu, you are not leading disciples, but troops." Li Wuji glanced at Yi Tianren with a smile and said, "This time, I'll bring Yi Karen and a few elite disciples." "Thank you, Senior Wuji." Yi Tianren was overjoyed when he heard that. He went to Star World and received guidance from Jiang Tian. He also obtained endless cultivation resources and combat experience. It could be said that he benefited greatly. Yi Karen had such an opportunity at such a young age. It was really worth celebrating. At this moment, Li Wuji suddenly flicked his finger, and a small sandalwood box appeared in his hand out of thin air. The inheritance of Kunlun is indeed extraordinary. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. Li Wuji was wearing a storage ring. This was the second time Jiang Tian had encountered a local space Dharma treasure after returning to Earth, except for the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Moreover, when he scanned it with his divine sense, he found that his divine sense did not penetrate the wooden box. Of course, if he used the Soul Devourer's divine sense, he could wear down even the most powerful divine sense array, but there was no need for that at this time. Jiang Tian's face was as calm as water. He said, "What is this? Immortal Master Jiang, haven't you been looking for the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality? The old man has a few here as a gift for Immortal Master Jiang. I think your incomplete map of the ruins of immortality will become the complete map of the ruins of immortality." Li Wuji said with a smile. "What?" Huang Linger and Yi Tianren were shocked. This was a supreme treasure that involved the specific location of the gate of the ruins of immortality. Even Song Shuangyan, with her status, had been eager to obtain it. She could even get the opportunity to join Mount Shu and Mount Amei with a few admission tickets. Li Wuji opened the box and took out 3 yellowed fragments. He smiled and said, with a smile, just like what Tai Chu said, the ruins of immortality are very likely to have evil intentions towards Earth. And if we wait here, we can only wait passively. The old man believes that if Tai Chu finds the gate of the ruins of immortality and enters the world of immortality, it is better to take the initiative to attack than to wait for death. Dao Friend Limitless, your gift is too precious. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and knew that the fragment was real. And when combined with the incomplete map he had obtained, it happened to be a complete map of the ruins of immortality. Hearing this, Heavenly Yi bowed deeply with cupped fists and said emotionally, "Senior Li's breadth of mind is truly admirable." Huang Linger also thought that this old Taoist was much more magnanimous than Hao Taichung and other sect leaders. No wonder he was the top Taoist sect leader of Kunlun. Li Wuji seemed to be careless about his respect for Yi Tianren. He waved his hand and said to Jiang Tian, however, the old man heard that the ruins of immortality is located at the other end of the starry sky. It is a large cultivation planet. The weakest cultivators on it are at the immortal state. There are countless human immortals, earth immortals, and sky immortals. There are even more powerful cultivators, such as perfected immortals and perfected cultivators. You'd better increase your cultivation to the limit and have a 100% chance of winning. Of course. I won't go there easily until I reach the golden core level and can kill nascent soul level cultivators. Jiang Tian nodded. However, as far as I know, in the long history of the ruins of immortality, there have been people who came to Earth to guide the geniuses of the human race on Earth to cultivate in the ruins of immortality. However, it seems that they can only come to Earth once every few hundred years. I don't know the exact time. People from the ruins of immortality have come to Earth? Jiang Tian was slightly moved. Yi Tianren and Huang Linger were also shocked. That's right. Li Wuji said, the big explosion in the Tianqi era was actually caused by a battle between the people of the immortal ruins on Earth. A sword fell from the sky. Later, it was brought to Amei by the Amei sect's sect master, the state protector. This shows that the ruins of immortality is not a monolithic block. If Master Immortal Jiang goes to the ruins of immortality, you should unite some pacifists and win more support. You know, fortresses are always breached from the inside. Jiang Tian also cupped his fists and said, don't worry, fellow cultivator. Once I find the transmission array to the ruins of immortality, I will definitely invite you to open it together. Li Wuji smiled and said indifferently, alas, Immortal Master Jiang, I don't have much time left to live. I've seen through it all and have no more worries. I no longer have the heart to pursue the mystery of eternal life. It's better for this old man to be your assistant and guard Earth. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, it would be best if you could see through everything. Li Wuji nodded and suddenly said, however, Master Immortal Jiang, if we go to the West Earth this time and obtain the spiritual Qi recovery seed, which can really recover the spiritual Qi of Earth, then you and I still have to make some preparations for the mutation and evolution of living creatures and the emergence of demonic beasts. Master Wuji, what good plan do you have? Jiang Tian asked. The Kunlun sect is going to go out of the mountain and help the Huaxiaolong formation and the Tianqing school to guard Huaxia. What do you think, Master Immortal Jiang? Li Wuji asked. Huang Linger frowned again. She didn't know why, but she felt that something was wrong again. However, she couldn't say anything at all. After all, Li Wuji had already shown his sincerity by giving away the incomplete map of the ruins of deities. I must have gauged the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. This kind of immortal-like person can't be like what I thought. Huang Linger thought to herself. Jiang Tian said without hesitation, good. Right now, we should work together and fight side by side. I agree with this wholeheartedly. Li Wuji's face lit up again. Besides, the reclusive royalty has offended Master Immortal Jiang. Yingying Laozu also said that he would help the Tianqing school to guard Huaxia and make up for his mistakes. But they can't leave their homeland and they don't have a leader. They want to join the Huaxiaolong formation with the Kunlun sect and form an alliance to guard Huaxia. What do you think, Master Immortal Jiang? Chapter 1078. Jiang Tian looked at the map of the immortal ruins carefully, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He said, very interesting. This is a map that can self-destruct. Jiang Tian glanced at the two of them and said with a smile, in short, this is the location map of the teleportation array in the immortal ruins. Once it is stolen, the owner can hide the real content with just a thought. What will be revealed will be the wrong information. In that case, Yi Tianren exclaimed, even if the owner of the map is killed and the map is stolen, the robber will only follow the wrong words and run around like a headless fly. Huang Linger said, then wouldn't the efforts of Gu Baixian, the archaeology professor of Yanjing University, be in vain? It can't be considered as a waste. Jiang Tian laughed and said, in order to study the original map, he published a lot of papers and has become the top ancient language expert in the country. He is also the deputy director of Yanjing University. But now the text and the map are gone. What should we do? Yi Tianren frowned and asked. Jiang Tian and Tianqing School had spent a lot of manpower and resources to get the map of the teleportation array in the immortal ruins. They had fought all the way to Japan, destroyed the Song family, the martial arts family of Yanjing, and finally gathered all the information. Now that it had disappeared, Yi Tianren was anxious and regretful. Come out. If you don't come out, I will refine you into pieces. Jiang Tian didn't answer Yi Tianren. Instead, he flicked his finger. Suddenly, a finger light suppressed the sky above the map of the immortal ruins, ready to be released. The map of the immortal ruins moved without wind and kept trembling, as if it were alive and full of fear. Alas, why do you have to force me? With an ancient sigh, the map shone brightly, and a hidden shadow floated out from it. This shadow vaguely had the shape of a human, and it was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. It was blurry and distorted, and it was a shadow formed by golden light. What is this? Divine Soul? Heavenly Yi was surprised. This map fragment itself is a spiritual treasure. Only divine transformation realm cultivators can forge it. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. As for this phantom, it is the weapon spirit hidden within the spiritual treasure. It has its own consciousness. To put it simply, the soul is born from the consciousness and spirit of a living being, and the artifact's spirit is contained within the artifact. However, this kind of weapon spirit that can condense into a human form is a top-grade spirit treasure. After Jiang Tian finished explaining, he looked at the artifact spirit and said with a smile, "Say what you need to say." "What's your background?" "I won't say anything." "What can you do to me?" The artifact spirit said arrogantly. "This picture is not only a guide, but also a ticket. I only need to throw you into the furnace, and the teleportation array will activate on its own, right?" Jiang Tian rolled up the map of the immortal ruins and used it as a fan to fan himself. Jiang Tian could be said to be a grandmaster-level figure in the study of array formations. In his previous life, he had set up several heavenly cycle star arrays. That was a real star. With a star region as the array disk, stars as the array base, and star energy as the power, he could control the energy of stars to form an apocalyptic attack. In this world, what kind of array formation could escape Jiang Tian's eyes? The artifact spirit was stunned for a moment, then said in a trembling voice, "If you can't find the teleportation array, why are you burning this ticket?" Jiang Tian's eyes were cold, and a mocking smile appeared on his face as he said slowly, "Yes, I can't find the teleportation array, so I don't need you anymore. But if that's the case, you won't have a place to live. Your primordial spirit doesn't have a fixed place to live. I'm afraid I don't even need to erase you. Your soul will disappear in less than a year, right? Don't burn this teleportation array ticket, please." The artifact spirit trembled in fear and knelt down before Jiang Tian. "Tell me, where is the gate of the ruins of immortality?" Jiang Tian asked lazily. "But I don't want to die." The artifact spirit was in a dilemma and cried, "I'll help you find the teleportation array, but you'll still burn me to activate it. If you help me find the teleportation array." Jiang Tian used the carrot and stick strategy, threatening and tempting. He said indifferently, "I'll help you find a place to live. A real human body. Are you serious?" The artifact spirit was a little tempted. Since its birth, it had been refined into this ruins of immortality map by its master and could not move freely. These maps of the ruins of immortality were like a cage to it. What it envied the most was, of course, obtaining a human body and being able to move freely without the map. Moreover, after a long time, the primordial spirit was about to be destroyed and could not hold on for long. Of course. Jiang Tian smiled. In the West Earth, there's the perpetual life sect that extends its lifespan by seizing bodies many times. Whether it's seizing techniques or all kinds of bodies, they must have a lot of them. When I attack the West Earth, I'll be able to find a suitable body for you. You want to attack the West Earth mystic realm? What's your cultivation level?" The artifact spirit screamed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "What's the West Earth?" "My master has already been to Heavenly Kingdom and Heavenly Star, these two-dimensional worlds. He won a great victory and became the ruler," Yi Tianren said proudly. The artifact spirit was shocked and muttered, "Could it be that spirit Qi has recovered?" Speak. Tell me your background. Jiang Tian said coldly, then tell me the location of the teleportation array to the ruins of immortality. My master is Li Er. He is also the reincarnation of Taisheng Laojun, one of the three pure ones of Taoism. The artifact spirit said proudly. He stepped on the purple aura from the east and left Hanggu Pass from the west. He left me on earth to wait for the fated one. What do you want to ask? Just ask. Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren looked at each other. It's actually my artifact spirit. Back then, there was a legend that Laozi left Hanggu Pass from the west and the purple aura came from the east. In fact, he went to the western region, including ancient Tianzhu, to educate the Hu people and reincarnate Taoist Duobao as Shakyamuni, the Buddha. Legend has it that Laozi transformed into a beard to split the luck of the Western Buddhist sect. He wanted to straighten out the karma of Buddhism and prepare for the next calamity. Laozi also refined the Vajra bracelet, a supreme treasure of the Ren sect. But in fact, many scholars believe that the truth of this rumor should be that when Buddhism spread to Huaxia, the culturally confident Huaxia people didn't believe it and didn't accept it. The spread of Buddhism was hindered, so the Indian Buddhists fabricated the story of Laozi transforming into a Buddha and educating the Hu people. Jiang Tian asked, what era did the Battle of Immortals and the Twilight of the Gods happen? After the Great War of the Humans and Magi, before the Battle of the Gods. The artifact spirit said. Legend has it that 4 billion years ago, the god of creation of Hongmeng created a chaotic world, which was divided into the human realm, the earth immortal realm, and the heavenly realm by Pangu. The human realm was the untainted world, which was extremely vast. Later, the demon race and the Magi race fought a war in the untainted world. The untainted world was destroyed, and its fragments divided into many planets and ancient Earth. On ancient Earth, the human race and the remaining Magi race stood side by side. They fought against each other and the factions were divided. In the end, the Ren sect won. But at this time, there were more powerful divine-level civilizations and extraterrestrial demons invading. The escaping sects drove the continents away, forming the Earth and the immortal ruins of today. In the end, the spirit chi of Earth was exhausted. The battle of the gods could be said to be the final radiance of the human race. After that battle, many Tao teachings were almost destroyed. And Laozi is actually a reincarnation of the ancient Grand Supreme Elder. He left the Tao teachings of the pre-Qin Qi refinement warriors. Then, he left Hanggu Pass in the west, ascended the immortal ruins, and went to the depths of the universe. He didn't go to India, but to the depths of the universe? To the immortal ruins? Yi Tianren exclaimed. In fact, what the artifact spirit said could already be verified with what Baizé said. It only confirmed the approximate time of the Battle of the Deities. However, the story about Laozi leaving Hanggu Pass in the west was completely different from the previous rumors. Jiang Tian was shocked. The situation of the Battle of the Deities was gradually becoming clearer. Immortal ruins? The artifact spirit shook his head and said, I'm the clone of Grand Supreme Elder. What's the point of going to the immortal ruins? The immortal ruins in Centaurus is just a stop on the ancient path of stars. However, you can go to the central galaxy through the immortal ruins. The teleport array to the central galaxy was in the immortal ruins? Jiang Tian was shocked and his eyes lit up. Chapter 1079. Earth was at the edge of the Milky Way. As for the Milky Way, it was actually still in the wilderness at the edge of this universe. Jiang Tian had been to many cultivation planets in his previous life, and they were all in the central galaxy. From the ruins of immortality, which galaxy do you go to? Jiang Tian asked. 10,000 years ago, I visited the ruins of immortality with my father. It is said that through there, you can go to Saint Origin World. Saint Origin World. Jiang Tian slapped his thigh, his eyes filled with ecstasy. In his previous life, Jiang Tian had followed his master, the immortal sovereign, to Saint Origin World first. Saint Origin World was very close to the central galaxy. Moreover, there were many teleportation portals there. There, Jiang Tian had made many old friends, including a few who had become immortal emperors later on. So, the teleportation portal to the ruins of immortality is at Hanggu Pass? Jiang Tian asked. So what if I tell you? You can't leave anyway. That's a great formation left behind by an ancient almighty. It needs a lot of energy. The spirit snorted. Jiang Tian smiled and said, what if I revive the spiritual qi? The tool spirit shivered as if it was scared. It screamed, you know the existence of Star Destroyer? You got the spiritual qi revival seed? That's right. Jiang Tian said calmly. If the spiritual qi is revived, it is very possible. The spirit said. Jiang Tian asked coldly, how did Star Destroyer come to Earth? Is the mastermind behind it an extraterrestrial demon? I don't know about that. I didn't even explain it in detail back then. I just guessed that it should be from another Hongmeng world, which is not our world. It is very difficult to deal with. The spirit's voice trembled, as if it was very worried. Jiang Tian asked again, does the current Kunlun sect come from my orthodoxy? It should be said that it came from the Ren sect of the primordial age. One of the three pure ones, Lord Dao De, was created by my original self. However, he had gone through the battle of immortals and the battle of investiture of the gods. He did not have much fate energy left, and he was even suppressed by a god-level civilization. Before the investiture of gods battle, I didn't even go to Kunlun Mountain when I returned to Earth. It seemed that I didn't think much of them, said the device spirit. What does Li Wuji want from me? Your main original spirit follows him every day, so you should know, right? Jiang Tian asked coldly. Be careful of him, he's plotting against you. The artifact spirit cackled strangely. In his heart, Kunlun is the #1 orthodoxy, a peerless sect. He knew that Hanggu Pass was where the transportation array of the ruins of immortality was located, but he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he gave this map to you in order to trick you and use you. Jiang Tian was already mentally prepared. He asked the artifact spirit some more questions. There were many details about the battle of immortals that he did not know. In the end, the artifact spirit said worriedly, are you really going to the ruins of immortality? It was said that there were many descendants of the demon race and the witch race in the ruins of immortality, and there were as many experts as there were clouds. 3,000 years ago, when I took me there, I exclaimed that the cultivation civilization there had developed too quickly. Li Wuji wants to trick me. He's too weak. Jiang Tian snorted disdainfully. He immediately began to design and engrave many spirit guiding array discs. The Tianqing school had many dojos in Huaxia, and each of them had to have one. In addition, the Kunlun sect also had to have one. However, the Kunlun sect's array disc had a back door of the Soul Devourer's divine sense, which contained Jiang Tian's hidden Soul Devourer. Once the array disc was activated, the Soul Devourer could explode on its own. At that time, it could forcefully devour or enslave the divine souls of the Kunlun disciples without anyone noticing. Li Wuji, you old bastard. Thanks for reminding me. I'm not going to be a saint. I'm not going to work so hard to restore spirit qi. I'm going to let you guys take advantage of me for nothing. After Jiang Tian finished, his eyes suddenly lit up. In for a penny, in for a pound. He might as well build a back door that hid the Soul Devourer's divine sense in the 9 dragons guiding array discs. At that time, any spirit qi that was emitted through the 9 dragons guiding array discs would hide a Soul Devourer. If Jiang Tian wanted to kill and enslave these people, it would be a piece of cake. After doing all this, it was already 2 months later. All that was left was the installation and construction of the array. There were no weak soldiers under Jiang Tian's command. Perfected cultivator Hongye had received Jiang Tian's careful guidance and had received his true teachings. He had already perfected it and was competent. Li Wuji's invitation had already been delivered. Jiang Tian saw that Zhao Xueqing was in good spirits after being nourished by 3 spirit qi recovery seeds. He bid farewell to his family and rushed to Huaxia's Yanjing to meet up with Li Wuji. Then, they would pass through India's Death Hill and kill their way to West Earth. The last time he returned to Huaxia, Jiang Tian had only left in a hurry. This time, Jiang Tian returned to Linzhou City and Jinlin City first to see his friends and old friends. In Linzhou City, Jiang Tian only saw Yigufeng. As for Tang Wanyan and the others of the Tang family, Jiang Tian didn't see them. Now, he had already controlled a country and a sect and dominated the world. Their levels were too far apart and they didn't have any common topics to talk about. Everyone felt uncomfortable. After not seeing him for a long time, Yigufeng had also started to cultivate and had reached the late stage of the physique tempering stage. Yi Ziwei had probably taught him. Such a level of cultivation was nothing in the world of the top overlords, but basically, the international assassins and mercenaries couldn't do anything to him. Jiang Tian. You're here. Yi Gufeng, who was cultivating in the villa, was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped when he saw Jiang Tian. Next to him, Qiu Gong also kept rubbing his hands in joy. Next to him was a pair of children. They were both 3 or 4 years old and were playing with water guns on the lawn. Yes. I'm here to see Uncle Yi. Jiang Tian smiled. Yi Gufeng was so excited that his body trembled. He invited Jiang Tian into the living room and asked his wife to serve tea to the guests. Strictly speaking, she was Yi Ziwei's stepmother. Back then, Yi Gufeng had abandoned his wife and daughter for her and his future. However, this was the first time Jiang Tian had met her. She was gentle and graceful. There's no need for that. We can talk in the yard for a while. Jiang Tian waved his hand and refused. He sat down on a stone bench under the shade of a tree. Yi Gufeng's wife poured him some tea, bowed, and then silently left. Jiang Tian looked at the 2 children on the lawn and smiled. These 2 children are quite cute. Uncle Yi, you're still young. No, they are Zhou Zhenghao's children, Zhou Xiaonan and Zhou Xiaobei. Yi Gufeng sighed. Why are they with you? Jiang Tian asked. Zhou Zhenghao had a bunch of girlfriends but he never married. I don't know who gave birth to these 2 children. After he was killed by the adjudicator of the Holy See, all of his girlfriends wanted to split the family property. Yi Gufeng sighed and said, but since it was against the law, I decided to uphold justice and gave them some money. Then, they went their separate ways. However, no one wanted these 2 children. Their parents were already old, so I raised them. Jiang Tian sighed as well. If a powerful person or an organization wanted to rise up, it was inevitable that people would die. Even though Jiang Tian was an old man and tried his best to avoid it, sometimes he would lose sight of one thing and lose sight of another. Ah, how used to be a crook. But after he followed you, he turned over a new leaf. Yi Gufeng sighed emotionally. Moreover, he's loyal and devoted to you, obeying your every command. Jiang Tian did not say anything. The truth was that he had only treated Dragon 5th, Zhou Zhenghao, Tang Wanyan, and the others because he wanted to use them. They were just a bunch of heroes. But now, Jiang Tian still felt a little sad. Yeah. Qiu Gong sighed. Actually, that adjudicator Sheng Ogu was trying to suppress me. If he hadn't said those words to protect your face, he wouldn't have died. Bayubiu. At this moment, the siblings ran over and pointed their guns at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tianqin waved his hand, and many water droplets floated in the air, spinning. The 2 children were stunned. Their watery eyes widened. Magic. Amazing, Harry Potter. A bit old Harry Potter. This is your Uncle Jiang. Your dad told me about him. Yi Gufeng smiled. Oh, Superman. The world's greatest Superman. Kang Te-chu. Zhou Xiaobei looked at Jiang Tian as if he had seen his idol. No, he must be a fake. Superman always wears red underwear. Zhou Xiaonan said in a childish voice. Jiang Tian was speechless.